A quorum is present.
Before we go to public comment, I want to make an announcement. Inglewood residents, businesses, and workers are invited to a community workshop to help create a more friendly, more environmentally sustainable Inglewood. Is that better? Yeah. Inglewood residents, businesses, and workers are invited to a community workshop to help create a more environmentally sustainable Inglewood. The workshop will take place on Thursday, June 14th from 6 to 8 p.m. in the community room on the first floor of City Hall. This is the second of two workshops on Energy Climate Action Plan to be completed by December 2012 that the city is currently preparing, and attendees will be able to both hear about the plan and share their ideas for saving energy and water in the community. Any persons wishing to address the City Council on any item on today's agendas other than closed session may do so at this time.
Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Joseph Texer, and I want to again ask that the Council not approve the minutes for tonight or any future minutes because of the way that the City Clerk is documenting the minutes. I brought up before that the minutes have been inaccurate, biased, censored. They have left things out. Some of the things that I'm most concerned about now having to do with statements by the police department and the mayor is that those things are not in the minutes. If you have a 10-minute speech by the mayor and a member of IPD out of a 2-hour meeting, that's almost 10% of an entire meeting that isn't even documented in the minutes, and I don't think that's a transparent government. I don't think that that is something that the city clerk's office should be proud of. On two different occasions, both with Captain Sissick and with the mayor's comments at the last meeting. That was during the public comment section of the meeting. You won't find it in any of the minutes. Now, I haven't seen the minutes for the May 22nd meeting, but I'd be willing to bet that nothing that was said on that meeting is going to be in the minutes. If things are supposed to be above board and they're important enough to have here and show the people that are in this meeting that they're important enough to be in the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Texer.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here on the Economic and Development Department's report dealing with the Neighborhood Stabilization Program and selection of local realtors to work with that program. Mike Stewart, I'm a consultant in land use and zoning, and I'm a partner in the TKCGOM Corporation, and we do business throughout Southern California, a lot of work in Inglewood, and we're happy to be here with you. I'm speaking in support of the Brass and Brass Enterprises, who wish to represent the city of Inglewood as the listing agent for 4 homes in the city of Inglewood. This will help stabilize the area, work with blight, and also they will act as those on first-time home buyers, giving them counseling services. I know this group. I've worked with them in the past on many projects. I know that both Linda Brass and also Ted Brass are past presidents of the Board of Realtors, who is one of the oldest African-American realty organizations in Southern California. I know they're based in Southern California in Inglewood, and they've been very good in counseling all people who buy in Inglewood on how to be a buyer, what to do, and how to do it. I believe they will be very good in working with the city. I just want to give my statement of support. I think they'll be very good for the city of Inglewood. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, residents of Inglewood. With regard to D3 and that 4 homes that they do have listed, I don't know that they finished repairing those homes yet, but I wanted to input my voice in having an individual a contractor who I knew does very good work and would have done a service to the city by saving them some money. As I try to relay that information to some of the staff here, they wouldn't accept any information from me, a longtime resident here. With regard to these assessments that are going to come forward, and especially the street lighting assessment, I've got a problem with these things, because for the almost 50 years that I've been here, I don't think we get anything for these assessments that I consider to be another tax on the residents of the city. And going back to this street lighting thing, I can remember coming before this council and even staff and telling them of a light fixture that was knocked down by a car accident on the corner of 8th Avenue and 77th, where I live. And that thing was down there for more than 4 months. It laid there before the street lighting or whomever chose to repair it. So these things are coming up. I think that you put them all together in a time that people don't have time to really digest these things because they're all going to be on a certain time, and you bring them forward, and it's just another tax, and you say yes to it, and we have to pay to get you out of some of the problems of this city, but we the residents and we the taxpayers, in my opinion, get very little for it. So those are my comments for the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher.
My name is Willie A.G., and I live in the beautiful city of Inglewood. I want to say this, speak on CM1. I want to welcome Consolidated Waste to the city of Inglewood, but I would like for this council to make sure that Consolidated Waste exceed as well as Waste Management are better. And if they don't, I hope this council have it out so that we can get somebody that can live up to the #1 city in California, the beautiful city of Inglewood. And I just hope they can live up to it and support you guys in approving it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Agee.
Hello, my name is Eunice Brown, to the mayor and to the council members. I am filing a claim against the city of Inglewood, specifically the LA County Fire Department and McCormick Ambulance, for continuous premeditated...
Ma'am, you'd have to come back at the end of the meeting. That's not on the agenda right now. Right now we're only talking about things that are on the agenda, but we have 3 minutes at the end.
At the end? Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Okay, we close public comment. Item 1, CSA 1, NH. Oh, I didn't see them. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I wasn't moving quite fast enough.
No problem.
I, too, my name is Lee Coleman, and I am a local realtor broker in the city of Inglewood for over 30 years. And I, too, am in support of Brass and Brass to get the 4 homes that's for sale by the city of Inglewood. So I've known Ted and Glenda personally and from a personal and business standpoint for many years, and I think they would do a fine job in representing these properties. So once again, I am in support of Brass and Brass to receive those listed. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Denise Jackson, and I'm a realtor with Brass and Brass, and I'm very excited about them being awarded the opportunity to represent the city of Inglewood in the 4 properties that will be listed. We're very excited about it. We're looking forward to it, and we support them wholeheartedly. As you already know, Ted Brass has over 30 years of experience in the community, and so we are looking forward to supporting that effort. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Lynette Lewis, District 4. I know that we do have several real estate brokers that are within this city, and I was hopefully that we have gone out to really look at other brokers that are within this city rather than just awarding a contract to somebody. Okay, and I'd like to speak on 10. Item number 10. I just need to ask a question because looking at this staff report recommending the mayor and the city council authorize the chief of police, when did we choose a chief? We did that? Did I sleep something? Was I not here when y'all chose him or something?
Well, actually,
Okay, so
that's
it's item
whoever's
number
in
10.
charge of the department is authorized.
Oh, okay, because I didn't realize that he had chosen one at that point.
Okay.
Okay, well, that's just a question I needed to ask. Okay, thanks.
All right. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Betty Edwards. I'm a 33-year resident of the Inglewood and Morningside Park. Currently, I'm a realtor at Brass and Brass Enterprise, and I just want to ditto what my fellow co-worker stated, that I am selling broker. I have several buyers that are already interested in the property, so I'm looking forward to closing some deals with the city, along with as a independent contractor with Brass and Brass, who have been in the business for many years, and so have I, over 25 years of service to this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor. My name is Larry Springs. I'm a resident in the 1st District and also a business person in the City of Inglewood for over 30 years. I am in the real estate business along with some of my other colleagues, and I am in support of this DR3 Brass and Brass real estate along with Equity LA. I believe that those 2 particular brokerage that are in the city have done excellent work. I'm sure that you will be pleased with the products and the work that they'll be able to put forth for the city, and I'm encouraging you to vote for them, and I'm giving my full support for Brass and Brass Real Estate and Equity LA.
Hello, Inglewood family. I'm going to do something different than I usually do. I'm not going to complain about anything. I'm going to make a compliment about something, that you're all here and this is election day.
Mr. Mayor, council members, staff, I'm Glenda Brass, CEO and managing partner of Brass and Brass Enterprises. And I'm actually going to be speaking on behalf of DR3 as well. Firstly, let me just say that my husband and I are honored to have been selected to represent the city in this most worthy endeavor to help to bring stabilization to Inglewood neighborhoods. In addition to supporting Inglewood in their neighborhood stabilization efforts, we also support the City of Los Angeles. And having worked on this and other programs over the years has given us the specialized knowledge required to manage these properties from inception to conclusion. And we're pleased that we have a team of dedicated, knowledgeable, professional real estate practitioners who are working with us as a part of our team to help us to get this done. Now, we're proud that they are able to join us in our successes. And we count Inglewood, what we are able to do for you, as one of those successes. But more importantly, as a small business in Inglewood and a resident of Inglewood, we are especially proud that Inglewood went out to the brokers in the Inglewood community and allowed us to be able to present our credentials to you so that we were able to participate in this most worthy endeavor. Now, we've already gone through the vetting process, and us along with, and somebody said it shouldn't just be awarded to one person, but I happen to know as a part of the RFP there were 30 plus brokers who were reviewed, and I'm really excited that we were among the ones that were chosen. So we've gone through the legal scrutiny and the necessary insurance compilation, a whole bunch of stuff, but I'm still compelled to stand here today and say to you that your business is in good hands with Brass and Brass Enterprises. Mr. Mayor, council members, and staff, Brass and Brass looks forward to working with you on this and other similar projects. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council members, staff, and citizens of Inglewood, my name is Butch Grimes. I'm the owner and broker of Team Equity LA Property. I'm a proud citizen of Inglewood. I've had a business here in Inglewood now for 28 years. We have worked diligently on NSP programs since they've been initiated, not only in this round, but in previous years with other cities as well. We understand the vetting process. We understand it also takes quite a bit of work and diligence that goes into the program. And rather than reiterate things that have already been said, and I do endorse Brass and Brass, because they do a good job too. No, they've been a partner of ours, and we've all worked together. And one of the nice things about our community is the brokers in our community have worked together for many, many years. We all know each other. We've held positions. We've held positions at all the local associations, and we communicate. And I think that's a real key, especially when you're talking about moving a program such as this, because there is a vetting process. And there's going to be a lot of work that's needed, and there's going to be a lot of knowledge needed for this program to work smoothly. And I'm sure in the presentations that you probably heard and the information, there is still quite a bit of work to be done. And we're up for the challenge. We've done this before, and we're looking forward, and we're really honored to be able to have an opportunity to work with you. And I hope everything goes smoothly tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Grimes.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, staff, residents. My name is Velma Slaughter, and I live in District 4, and I'm speaking on CM1. Staff report recommending approval of the agreement with Consolidated Waste Disposal Service, LLC, Irrigation Solid Waste Management Service, and I'd like you guys to approve that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Slaughter. Going once, twice. Come on, Ms. Nickel.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, Councilwoman, and Councilman, and staff. I want to thank you very much for having a couple of seconds to be up here. I would just like to, my name is Pinky Nichols, and I'm from the Heights of Ladera, and I want to say thanks to Mayor Butts.
Oh, wait,
Mayor Butts, I
don't think that's on the agenda. And wait a minute, hold on, Pinky.
I thought it was an open agenda.
No, actually, at the end.
Thank you, dear.
Okay, thank you. I don't think I don't want to hear it, though. It sounded good. It sounded so unusual. So don't go anywhere. All right. All right, we'll close public comment. I might end the meeting on that. Yeah. Okay, item 1, CSA 1 and H2.
Warrant register, payment of the bills.
Move allow payments.
Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
No.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin. Aye. Mayor Butts.
Aye. EH1. Oh, excuse me. Madam Clerk, what's the next scheduled matter?
The next scheduled matter is a public hearing to consider changing the zoning on approximately 15,900 square foot portion of an approximately 48,400 square foot property at 8090 South Crenshaw Boulevard from R-Zone single-family residence to R3 multiple-family resident.
Has notice of the hearing been given in the time, form, and manner as required by law, and do you have the affidavit on file?
Notice has been given and affidavit is on file.
Is the complete file of the Planning Commission present?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
Have any communications been received on the matter?
No communications have been received.
Mr. City Manager, is a staff report?
Yes, Mayor. Linda Tatum, our acting Economic and Community Development Director, will give the staff report.
All right, Ms. Tatum, welcome.
Mayor and Council, I'd like to ask Chris Jackson, Senior Planner, to give a brief overview of this proposal for the City Council's consideration.
Good evening, Mayor Butts and members of the City Council. Have before us zone change number 129. I'll try and make this brief. We should all be kind of familiar with the site, but I'll give you some details that'll give you a description of what the applicant is requesting. Just in terms of previous actions and the Plan Commission recommendation, I just want to show that the site or the structures on the site were built around 1954. In 1973, there was a special use permit approved by the city to allow what was then the Cripples Children's Society for Los Angeles County, which was and continues to be a nonprofit corporation. Several approvals for the site itself in terms of the type of apparatuses that were being constructed on the site or manipulated on the site. Most recently, in April 4th of 2012, the Inglewood Plan Commission conducted a public hearing, adopted a negative declaration, and approved a resolution recommending that the zone change be approved by the Inglewood City Council. Just a little background in terms of the Harry A. Meyer Center. Ability First Harry A. Meyer Center in Inglewood. It offers programs for children and adults with developmental disabilities such as autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and epilepsy. And the center serves the South Los Angeles area. Just to give you an idea of the orientation of the site, it's actually located what would be east of Crenshaw Boulevard, what would be south of 80th Street and north of 81st Street. The property is split zoned. It's approximately a 48,000 square foot parcel and predominantly zoned R3, which are multiple family residential. And then there's a portion that is zoned R1. That the applicant is currently requesting to change the zoning of this R1 portion to R3. The R1 zoning appears to be left over from a portion of the site that contained residential lots. These residential lots here, which are zoned R1, pretty much the same size. There's adjacent to the parcel two single-family lots that one fronts on 80th Street, one fronts on 81st Street, and this is contiguous to those parcels. The reason for the request is to facilitate an intended project to create one structure on the site to accommodate the primary use. Just going back to the Planning Commission in approving the request, it was clear to the Planning Commission that the purpose for rezoning the property from the portion of the property that's R1 from R1 to R3 was to not to construct multifamily units, but rather to facilitate a planned assembly development request for the site. Our PAD process, which is a two-step process, there's the preliminary PAD that has to go to the Planning Commission, and if approved and not appealed to the City Council, there would be a secondary step. It would have to come back to the Planning Commission again, and that again is appealable to the City Council as well. At that particular stage, any conditions related to the project could be imposed, including restrictions on what could be occupied by the site, or the site could be further developed as. In this particular case, the planning assembly development, generally the planning assembly development cannot be used as stipulated in our municipal code on R1 zone property. So that is the reason and rationale for the applicant coming forward for the change of the zone. That concludes staff's presentation. Staff is requesting that you consider the Planning Commission's recommendation of staff report, Planning Commission's recommendation, the staff report, the public testimony, and make a determination. If you decide to approve the request, we're recommending that you adopt a negative declaration and then introduce the ordinance and approve the zone change 129. That concludes staff's presentation. Staff is available for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment?
Good afternoon to the council. My name is Elvia Wilson, and I'm standing before you because I was here for the last meeting when my understanding was that they wanted to build a road that would allow them access to go in and out of the Eddie Meyer Clinic without any obstruction from Crenshaw Boulevard. My concern standing before you today is that if that happens or if it's changed, what impact would it have on the community surrounding this establishment? Mm-hmm. And so I would need, as part of that community, and I know I'm here, I don't know if anyone else is here from there, but I'm concerned about the traffic, about the housing complex that's on 81st Street, and what kind of traffic it will, just have towards the community. That's my concern.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir?
Steve Schultz, CFO Ability First, formerly the Crippled Children's Society of California. I just wanted to reiterate what Mr. Jackson said, that we are committed to being in Inglewood. We've been there since 1973, and we want to replace the 3 aging structures with a brand new building, create some jobs in the neighborhood, and continue to serve roughly the same number of people with developmental and physical disabilities. And thank you, Council, for hearing me.
Thank you.
Roy Fisher. As a resident, a longtime resident of the First District, I'm very familiar with Ability First and have friends who have had children go through there with certain problems and stuff. I am concerned, however, as to the change from R1 to R3, what their really intentions are. I know that children and adults, even in the community, go through there and exercise in that pool and whatnot. But I would ask you before you begin to approve this item, to understand and assure the community that we're not building housing for people that might live on that property, to change what they've been doing in the past. And I further would ask that even though this has been before the Planning Commission, that people in that area in the First District should have the opportunity to know exactly what the intentions of these people are with regard to that zone change. And I would like to know exactly from you and from the gentleman who just spoke what their intentions are with that property.
Okay, close public comment. Before we go to any council comments, I wanted to introduce a motion to waive further reading. That wasn't listed.
So moved. Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. And I also want to move items 2 and 3. But, Ms. Tatum, could you answer the question as to the potentiality for the zone change to result in housing, residential housing?
We think that based upon the long-term established use on the site by Ability First and its stated and demonstrated commitment to the community and to its mission to serve developmentally disabled, that there is minimal chance that anything would occur there other than what is currently occurring. That's the commitment we've had from the applicant. And as a part of the approval process, when the proposed actual building comes back through the PAD process, we would have the opportunity to appropriately condition the property at that time to assure that only that use that's being requested can continue on the site.
Okay. Madam City Clerk?
Can I comment, Mayor?
Comment?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, as to the motion on waiver for the reading, that's already passed?
Right, that's
so
already
now do I have the floor to speak?
Yes, you do.
Okay, thank you. First of all, let me thank Mr. Schultz for being here. I do make a regular practice of visiting Ability First for various reasons. As a conservative guardian of my sister, who's artistic, I have the utmost concern of making sure that this program runs smoothly. And so in my multiple visits there, one of the concerns that we had is that there's 2 homes that have been modified to accommodate this type of lifestyle, or should I say outdoor out activity from their homes to come to this event in which they can have a safe haven to be able to participate. Challenge becomes that when you take the first house that is right off of Crenshaw, it's 2-story. Because it's 2-story, those that are dealing with developmental and physical disabilities, they're not able to go to the second floor. So as a consequence, it now requires that the staff uses the upstairs as the apartment for the office purpose when they really need that space for additional activity space for the just developmental physical disabled. In addition to that, because of a heightened number of individuals that qualify, there's a demand for the space to be able to accommodate those that are in need. And the way that the homes were built, the rooms are too small. And so and also because of the aging of it, they're now in a position where they've garnered funding for the last 3 years of trying to galvanize the funding they need to move forward. Even Mr. Fields had reached out to your representative to see if we had any funding or be able to access any funding to make this happen, which we do not at this point. But more importantly, that over the years, this council had actually contributed $50,000 for the swimming pool to help maintain it. And so it is very important that this project move forward for the benefit for this community and also for those that are in fact experiencing the developmental and physical disability, and I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Man, real quick. Yeah, briefly.
Go ahead, Councilman Morales.
I just wanted to briefly point out, it's obvious that the surrounding community will have concerns with whatever impact may happen. During the initial study and checklist, we developed that, correct?
That's correct.
And down, I wanted to point out to the resident that spoke on behalf of her area that there was a portion in terms of the transportation and traffic which determined that there would be no impact. But there was a specific items that were addressed in there. Can you just let them know like what you go through in terms of getting to that answer in regards to the negative impact?
Essentially, what we do in terms of demonstrating or determining whether or not there are any traffic impacts is to look at how the building or how the site is used and determine if, based upon the proposed reuse of the site, meaning the consolidation of the existing buildings into one building, we would determine if there is any additional square footage that's being created, and if so, the extent additional traffic is generated by that square footage. And using that formula, the Public Works Department, their traffic engineers, they determine that there is no additional impact. And we also understand from the Ability First designers of the project that they don't anticipate that there will be a substantial additional amount of traffic.
Right, and I just wanted to point out, I don't know where the resident is now, but that it's part of the, ma'am, It's just part of the staff report in case you wanted to take a look at it out in the hallway, and you know, copies, I'm sure, would be made available to you. That's all. Thank you.
Councilman Stevens.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Swartz, would you come forward, please, sir? You know, your building has been there for many, many years, the home portion of it.
Yes.
My daughter's actually, the oldest one, actually participated in the swimming class that you offer there.
Yes.
And so I thank you for that, because it's very reasonably priced. Mr. Jackson, could you bring up the plot picture that actually shows the photograph of the property? And okay. And Mr. Swartz, I admire what your organization does. But here's my concern. You see, when we move from Crenshaw on 80th Street, we have the apartment building there. You see, then we have the vehicle there that's in the driveway. Then we move after that to the home, and then there's another home on the opposite side of the street I'm referring to. Now,
Yes.
that right there is my concern, because you're the CFO, Chief Financial Officer of this facility, correct?
Correct.
And so you're basically an employee,
Yes.
correct? You don't own the land. So, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, so here's my concern, is that your intentions may be that you do not wish to build something later on that could fit into an R3 zone, but your successor might. And so the residents who would live on 80th Street, if at a later time after you've retired, if they decided, the organization that you work for decided to relocate, the people who live on 80th Street in that entire residential community, as we've seen in District 2, where they have a number of homes, because back in the 60s and in the 60s, when Inglewood experienced an ethnic change in this community, people took their homes, had the lot changed, and then what they did was they moved to Orange County and built huge apartment buildings over by Rogers Park. My concern is that we could 10, 15 years from now, may not even be a councilman here, have a situation where we could have a 2-story, 3-story, 4-story multi-dwelling units there, multiple dwelling units there. Once you add on the R1, Mr. Jackson, by adding on the R1, how many units could be built on that lot if it was multi?
Sure, I'm sorry.
Designation for that area is stipulated by 2 portions. One is the general plan, which for R3, the density is 23 to 43 acres, 23 to 43 units per acre, approximately.
23 to what?
43 units
23
per
to
acre.
43 units on just the
But
R3 portion.
Right.
Now,
correct.
when you add the R1 portion, how many units can you add?
Well, the total site is about 48,000 square feet, a little bit over an acre. So you would be able to get anywhere max from 23 to about 43.
So we could be looking at about 60 to 70 units built there right after Mr. Swartz is retired, maybe 15, 10 years down the road. Correct?
Well, I would add that in that conversation, that as part of this development proposal, the applicant is also requesting a plan assembly development. As part of the plan assembly development, there'll be a review at the Planning Commission. At that particular point, you would be able to impose restrictions on the
But
property.
see, that's the problem. The residents that are calling my office, they do not believe in the Planning Commission as far as looking out for their interests. They're just very apprehensive about this. Now, this is what I would like to ask you. I think a solution to this would be this. When Jerry Buss, Mariani Buss, sold the farm, what they did was that they placed a covenant stating that no longer will there be any, they would never be allowed to have sporting events at the farm. It's actually in there. So now anyone who purchases the farm or anything that happens in the future, you cannot have a sporting event at the farm. That's the very reason why we're having music concerts there with MSJ. So what I would like to ask is, can we possibly have, Mr. Swartz, would you be willing to prepare a document that we could vote on, stating that you will not, from this day forward, this property will never be used for multi-family housing, multi-family housing. Would you be willing to do that?
May I address the council?
Sure, come right ahead.
We were formerly the Crippled Children's Society. We've been Ability First for about 12 years. We were founded in 1926. We're committed to a mission of helping people with developmental disabilities. Our mission no longer includes housing. We do have an apartment building across the street that was funded with HUD dollars and with the help of the city of Inglewood. We've raised $2.5 million, not from all of the communities, including Pasadena, Orange County, all over. Everyone on our board that's throughout Southern California has identified 8090 Crenshaw Boulevard as having the biggest need right now for our organization. We have 7 community centers like the one on Crenshaw Boulevard, and this is the one that needs to be upgraded the most. And we are committed to this community, and we will be here. And yes, we will sign something like that or write something like that if that's what it will take, so that we can build this new center. And we have no intention. We operate during business hours. We have no intention other than opening our facilities for evening programs for the community to do any housing.
Okay. And the structure you're building is going to be 2-story, correct?
No, it's going to be a single story. Our plan is to build a 6,400 square foot single story building, which will leave plenty of open space.
Okay. So it's not going to
facility.
be elevated where people would be looking into other people's homes?
No, and our intention is to double the parking space on site so that we don't spill over any of our vehicles onto the street.
Okay. That's very admirable, Mr. Schwartz. So, colleagues, Mr. Schwartz has stated that he would be willing to prepare a prayer document for his organization that says that they will not build multifamily housing on this site. Perhaps we could hold this over, and then he could come back with the document, and then at that point in time, when he prepares it and we've all had a chance to review it, then we would vote on it.
Respectfully, Councilman Stevens, we're trying to start the construction of this building as soon as possible because we have a big need in this community. So any further delay...
It would only take a week. It wouldn't take that long.
But don't we then have to come back to this council to continue our PAD process?
Councilman, we hear you.
Sure, go ahead.
We hear you. Councilwoman Dunlap, did you?
Yes, actually, before I make my comments, or else possibly when I'm finished, Ms. Tatum, I'd like you to respond to that request because I think there's some legal issues here with regard to rights. But I would like to also state that the Harry Myers Center has been a fabulous resource in this community. I've gone all over Southern California. People know of that facility, Ability First. It speaks well of us. Your program speaks well of us as a community. You've always had an open door policy for seniors with regard to the swimming, a therapeutic heated swimming pool. And I'm very proud that you're there. I appreciate what you're going to be doing there, and I understand why you need to have the zoning change so you can move forward with your community center for the people that you serve. So I'm 100% supportive. Now, Ms. Tatum, if you'd respond, please.
Yes, I'd just like to respond regarding the core purpose of the zoning code is to establish the city's basic land use regulations, and it is that tool is the city's primary tool for regulating land use. Unfortunately, there is not a basis to transfer the authority for the zoning code to regulate what happens on a property to some other instrument, and a covenant would not be the appropriate tool to regulate land use. It always and remains the city zoning code as authorized by state law.
Well, Ms. Tatum, what was used by the forum? How did they do that? Whatever they did, maybe we could mirror that.
I can go and look that up, but I'm not familiar with the covenant that you mentioned. We can certainly go back to the record and see if there is such a statement, but I'm not familiar with that, nor am I aware that that was a condition of the approval or a requirement, but we can certainly research that and bring something back to the council.
Okay, Mr. Schwartz, could you step forward for one moment? Mr. Schultz, I'm sorry. Mr. Schultz, how many years has the center been in operation?
This center, we've been on the site since 1973,
Exactly.
and we've been in establishment since 1926.
Okay, I wanted to make that comment because in the 19 years I was here in the police department, we never had one single call to your facility, nor one single complaint. And I've been to your center. It's admirable the work you do with a population of our community that is invisible and in need of services. So I want to tell you thank you very much for what you do silently, unobtrusively, and as good neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I'm going to say. Madam City Clerk.
Council Members Stevens,
Abstain.
Dunlap,
Aye.
Morales,
Aye.
Franklin,
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. Madam City Clerk, what's the? Oh, wait a minute. We have to write. What's the next scheduled matter?
The next scheduled matter is a continued public hearing.
Mayor?
Do we need to introduce?
He already introduced
I
it.
did. I did. That's what you
And
wrote.
Yes, you introduced
Okay.
it.
if you could adopt the environmental action, the negative declaration.
I did. I moved
just-
that.
you
Oh,
just
good.
did that.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Madam Clerk, what's the next scheduled matter?
The next scheduled matter is a continued public hearing to consider the 2008 and 2014 draft housing element, General Plan Amendment 12-01.
Has the notice of this hearing been given in the time, form, and manners required by law? And do you have the affidavit on file?
Notice has been given and affidavit is on file.
Is the complete file of the Planning Commission present?
Yes, the file is present, and
Have-
there has been communications, and you will receive and file them.
And I have them right here. We'll receive and file them. Mr. City Manager's staff report.
Yes, Ms. Linda Tatum, Acting Economic and Community Development Director, will give the presentation.
Mayor and Council, I am really pleased to present the city's 2008 to 2014 housing element. This is the culmination of approximately 4 to 5 year effort on behalf of staff. And it is one of the 7 required elements of the city's general plan. And regarding the importance of the housing element, the state has determined that decent housing for every Californian is a priority of statewide importance. And because of that, the state has taken very specific initiatives to treat the housing element differently from the way that it treats all of the other elements of the general plan. It is the one element of the city's general plan that requires certification by the state. It requires specific review and approval by the state in getting that certification. And it's really important that the city get certification of its housing element because of the opportunity for the state to pursue housing funds from the state and other entities. So with that, I'd like to have Mindy Wilcox give a really brief overview of the housing element and its importance to the community.
Mayor and council members, good evening. The housing element has 3 major components. The first is an assessment of current and future housing needs, as well as the identification of resources and constraints that can impact the provision of housing. The second component is the identification of goals and objectives for the provision of housing. And the third component is an implementation program aimed at achieving those objectives. Prior to every housing element planning cycle, the Southern California Association of Governments determines the housing need for the region and allocates a number of those housing units to each jurisdiction. Inglewood was allocated 1,658 units for the 2008 to 2014 planning period, and these units break down into the income categories shown. Through the housing element, Inglewood is required to demonstrate that there are sufficient sites in the city that can accommodate these units and at adequate densities to make affordable housing feasible. Through the inventory prepared, we determined that available sites could accommodate approximately 3,500 new units, and over 3,000 of these are at densities in which affordable housing is considered feasible. Based on this analysis, the city meets the housing needs for the number of units allocated by the Southern California Association of Governments. The plan also evaluates existing resources available to encourage the provision of housing and affordable housing. These include funding resources, as well as incentives that encourage the provision of affordable housing, such as the planned assembly development process. The plan also evaluates the impact of potential constraints on the provision of affordable housing, including development standards such as parking requirements. The housing element also identifies 9 objectives shown here that are intended to enhance and support the provision of housing in the city. Just to highlight a couple of these, the first is maintenance of the existing housing stock, and current city programs are already aimed at achieving this objective. For example, community development block grant funds go towards housing rehab, loans and grants, and sponsorship of existing affordable units. And also the architectural history survey that is in process in the city also contributes towards maintaining the existing housing stock. Then if you down to number 4, which is addressing special housing needs. This would include addressing the housing needs of specific groups such as the disabled, homeless, the extremely low income, larger families that live in overcrowded conditions, and other specific identified groups with special housing needs. In addition to existing city programs, these objectives will also be attained through a number of new programs that constitute the Housing Elements Implementation Program. Implementation of these programs is required to meet current housing element law. Therefore, staff will be implementing these actions over the course of the next year, and where applicable, will be returning to the council for the necessary code amendments. First, we have a number of actions to be implemented in the short term. Some, such as further publicizing fair housing information, have been completed. Others will be completed within approximately 3 months of the element adoption. For example, the Planning and CDBG Community Development Block Grant Divisions will be working closely to identify ways in which to encourage the provision of extremely low-income housing and housing to address overcrowded conditions. And then within the next 12 months, staff will be implementing additional actions that mainly include code amendments that are required to comply with current housing element law. For example, staff will be returning to the City Council to amend the code in regards to emergency shelters, transitional housing, and supportive housing. The Planning Commission has recommended that you adopt a mitigated negative declaration and approve the general plan amendment for the 2008 to 2014 housing elements. This concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are any persons present who wish to address the council on this matter? Close public comment. A move.
Excuse me.
Oh, there is. Mr. Fisher?
You know, in that short presentation, it came to me that more than half of that is low income or somewhere below that. And as you move forward, that you know, we got all kind of property that we could build, especially down there in the 4th district, where all these properties have been taken down, that we probably would have had that 1,068 units of all those buildings that are standing there burning or vacant right now. And it seems to me that you know, if they find the monies, you know, maybe they can go in there. But my concern is, you know, as you bring these people here, you know, what do you bring them to? I mean, you need additional parks and open areas for people, and that's you know, what I did not hear in this presentation. Again, I say that there's a whole lot of housing potential in the 4th district that was taken out and still there, and it needs to be destroyed or built up or whatever. But my concern too with that housing that they suggest we need here in the city. We also need parks and the rest of it to go along with that. So I would hope that they would bring that to the attention of the jury.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. With that, we'll close public comment.
Comment, Mayor.
Councilman Franklin.
Thank you. And actually, Mr. Fisher had brushed on concern I had under the general plan compliance, because there's 7 elements, and one of those elements is the open space element. And in District 4, there's been a concern about sufficient open space, and that I know that we have a development in the works that may generate up to 25 acres of green space. And is that part of the element that will be taken under consideration for this item before us? And then furthermore, we clearly want to concentrate on a recreation facility that is not in the area, and though the facilities that we currently have is already saturated, so that is something I need for us to look at upon adopting this proposal. Thank you, Mayor.
A move. Councilman Stevens.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Tatum, you know, could you bring up that the low income, moderate income chart that shows just exactly? There we are. Now, the above moderate income, we have 727 units that we need to develop, correct?
Let me clarify what this is. This is what's called our regional housing needs allocation, and this comes to the city from SCAG. We don't have any choice in whether or not we receive these. But what the crux of this allocation says is that the city must provide the opportunity for these housing units to be built. The city isn't required to go out and build them. They're not required to solicit developers to build them. But should a developer come to the city on property that is appropriately zoned for that use, the city is obligated to not put constraints in front of them and or to provide incentives to the extent that those incentives are available to the city. So I think it's helpful to clarify that when this gets adopted, this does not reflect any specific development proposal, and the city is not obligated to produce these housing units. Rather, the document says that should someone come to the city, the opportunity exists in the city to build this number of units. I hope that clarifies it somewhat.
Okay. So what I wanted to ask you was that how many of those units are related to a requirement as a result of redevelopment? When we used to have our redevelopment agency, now, how many of those units are reflective of the need for us to comply with rules regarding redevelopment that require us to provide a certain amount of housing units? How many of those?
None of these are specifically, this is unrelated to redevelopment. However, the fact that the City Council has approved some redevelopment projects that address low and very low income, that is to the city's benefit, because when we report on the city's compliance with these requirements, we can say to SCAG, the city approved this number of units that were redevelopment projects. And I don't have a specific number, but all of those would be to the city's credit. So we can say we are working towards achieving this goal.
But see, my concern is that since we no longer have a redevelopment agency, at the same time, we're no longer required. My understanding is that we are no longer required to be concerned about providing housing as a result of the abolishment of our redevelopment agency.
That's not
correct?
That is not correct. As a matter of fact, the housing element preceded the creation of redevelopment law, and it will continue.
Well, the housing element did, but there's a certain percentage of units there that are required as a result of us having redevelopment project zones.
No, that's not correct.
Oh, okay.
This has no relationship to the redevelopment law, other than the fact that the housing units that were approved by the redevelopment, by this council as a result of redevelopment funding, is to the benefit, because we can say we've satisfied some proportion of these units in the low and very low income category.
Okay, so here's my two more questions I have for you. Now, above moderate income level, what is that? What is that range? Or say a family of 3.
Can you speak to that, Mindy?
Yeah, it would be approximately above $54,000 a year in
Okay.
income level.
About $54,000 a year household income of a family of 3, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, here's my next question. Quite a number of our affordable housing units were always, in my opinion, built too small. You know, if we're going to make Inglewood stand out from everyone else, we should be like Pasadena and other areas that have now flourished as a result of what they started 30 years ago. Which means this is that what is the minimum size for a bedroom here in the city of Inglewood, Ms. Tatum?
It's 100.
So
or
foot-wise, 10 foot by 10 foot, isn't it? How would we go about incorporating that we wish to have all of our bedrooms be 12 foot by 12 foot? Something that would make a person, let's say, in another community that's looking for a place to purchase, because these are for residences to purchase, correct? Or are these rental units?
It could be either one.
Either one. So couldn't we somehow, Ms. Tatum, incorporate that we wish our bedrooms to be 12 foot by 12 foot, our living rooms to be, what's the average size of a living room here in the city of Inglewood required? You don't know that?
There is no requirement for the...
So here's my point, is that how can we incorporate making Inglewood better? Rather than building these low-income housing units with floors that vibrate when you walk on them, especially on the outer deck, on the walkways over in District 4 where I grew up at. How do we build something of quality that's going to be around and look the same as it did when it was first built, instead of where we see this construction where the joints are separated? How do we go about instituting policy? How do we go about doing that before we approve this? Because it seems as though once we approve these things, then it's always a dollar short and too late. What would we need in order to do what I've just described to you? Because I think that's something that needs to be done. We have to change what we've been doing, because the residents are not happy with what we've been doing. The residents who are homeowners in my district are not happy with affordable housing. They are not happy with it. That's why they were opposed to this project being built on Crenshaw and 81st Street. So how do we do that?
I think the message that the Economic and Community Development staff has heard and the former redevelopment agency staff is that when the city participates financially in any project or has to approve any project, we have been very, very clear in communicating the City Council's expectations regarding the level of quality for the design of the project, the materials, and everything from the ground up. However, at minimum, any development project in the city has to meet the city's building codes, which are required for safety. And we always suggest this, but when we're talking to applicants, we don't always have the results we'd like. But the zoning code standards that are in place now regarding unit size, setbacks, parking, and everything else, those are minimums. There is nothing that says that any developer that comes to the city can't exceed those standards, but that's not typically what we get, someone that wants to exceed those standards. So it would be incumbent upon the city to change the zoning code to address better standards, though I think our standards are very appropriate as they are.
So we need to raise the minimum. Thank you very much, Ms. Tatum. Thank you.
I have some questions.
Councilwoman Dunlap.
Yeah. Actually, with regard, I'll follow up with him first. With regard to room sizes and so forth, Ms. Tatum, isn't it true that if someone is building affordable housing, they can be exempt from a certain number of our standards?
Yes, that's a requirement of state law, and it's called the state density bonus law, and they have the option to require exemptions from 3 of the city's standards.
That's right, 3, which means even if we were to put into place a minimum room size for bedrooms of 12 by 12, which I support larger rooms as well, they can come to the city and under state law say, well, I want to be exempt from the 12 by 12 foot minimum. I want to build what I want to build. And the state law permits them to exempt themselves from 3 of our requirements. Now I want to move on to some of my questions and comments. I'm sorry that there's something actually not in here that's very, very important to me, to my constituents.
I've spoken about it several times, well, many times over the years at City Council, but I want to bring it up again. I'm hoping at some point in time it can be incorporated into this document. And that is, over the last, I'm going to say 20, well, actually 30 years, we've had a number of condo conversions from apartment buildings. A number of these condo conversions are literally falling apart. The homeowner associations have not been functioning properly. Plumbing is deteriorating and leaking. I know one senior citizen in her 80s lived on a first-floor condominium, which she owned free and clear by this time. She had mold halfway up her walls in every room. It became uninhabitable for her. She had to move out and start paying rent, and she owned her condo. Why? Because the condominium complex had no money. It was mismanaged. And they had no money to repair these massive plumbing leaks, and many of them were taking place right under her unit. Also, new roofs, decks. They're literally, these places are falling apart. They're falling apart. So, and many of them are occupied by senior citizens, just like this woman I mentioned who's in her 80s who owned her unit free and clear. She couldn't sell it because nobody wants to buy it. And you can't, people just can't sell these units because a new buyer will come in and say, wait a minute, I don't want to be assessed $30,000, right off the bat after I buy it. And so it's a serious issue. I don't know what we can do with regard to a homeowner association which is not properly functioning or has never properly functioned. But we do need to look at these condo conversions. They really have been a blight. In my district, many of them, they are deteriorating in front of our eyes. I mean, they're just like falling apart. And they could be small, maybe 20 units, or they could be big 70, 80 units. But they're falling apart. They can't sell them. They can't repair them. So when we talk about the number of units that we need, this member of the body is interested in taking care of the people who already live here. They have a commitment here. And I would like us, instead of building new, because when you build new, they're exempt from some of our minimum requirements, and they can build units that we might not like. I would prefer to use resources as they become available to begin to rehabilitate these complexes. What would happen if we did that is the people living there, would then there be a covenant on their property if we used redevelopment funds, which we still have for housing, or if we used home funds, they have to put a covenant on the property. But guess what? Most of these people would qualify as extremely low, very low, low, period, right off the bat. So what we would be doing is improving their housing stock, improving their quality of life, putting a covenant on the property, and they could stay there. If there happened to be one or two families that would not qualify, in fact, I bet they'd probably qualify under above moderate income. But if there happened to be some that didn't, we could buy their unit and then rehabilitate it. The point is, we need to fix the housing stock in this city. It's not in here, and I can understand why staff might not recognize that these buildings exist in the city. But we need to do something about it because we have too many people living a substandard lifestyle in dangerous conditions, which is the serious one I mentioned has to do with this mold issue. It's not here. Look at it. If it can be added at some point in time, I would greatly appreciate it. Other than that, I have looked at this document. I do appreciate all the information that's in there and the research, and I know it took a lot of time to put this together, so thank you very much for that. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Fields?
Yes, Mayor and City Council, I just wanted to let you know that we do have a code enforcement department, and in the event that any of these units are brought to our attention, we will go out there and cite them and ensure that they are made habitable again. So please let us know if you have any of these addresses. And
if I may, Mayor, the point is, Mr. Fields, there is no money. We can cite them every week, 52 weeks out of the year. If there's no money, and these people are senior citizens who are owning these units free and clear, if there's no money, there's no money. All you can do is run up their cost of living with a citation and make them upset for something they can't fix. We need to actually come up with the money, come up with a plan to put covenants on these properties, upgrade their their living conditions so they have some quality of life and fulfill our housing requirements at the same time. It's a win-win for everybody. Plus, it's a win-win for the neighborhood. Because when you drive by, you see a nice-looking building with nice windows and nice awnings and a clean roof and nice landscaping. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. You know, Ms. Statement, that was an interesting concept the Councilwoman put forward. Are there any other ancillary, as you sit here, I know it's a pretty big concept to bite up right here in the public session, but are there any other considerations that you could see that could inhibit that type of concept?
Actually, there's nothing in the housing element that would preclude any of what Councilwoman Dunlap suggested, and frankly, it's incumbent upon this body to look for those funding sources to do that. And to the extent that you have an adopted or certified housing element, it certainly enhances your ability to do that. But I would like to speak to a couple of the comments that you made. One is regarding the density bonus ordinance. Right now, we're subject to state law only because the city has not adopted its own density bonus ordinance. And if you look at the housing element carefully, that is one of the proposals in terms of the implementation actions, is for us to craft and bring forward the city's own customized density bonus law. Now, keep in mind, it still has to be consistent with state law, but we can craft it in a way that matches what our community needs are.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's interesting, and I'm going to go back to Councilwoman Dunlap's comment, because one of the big problems that we've had in the city is what would happen is housing stock would become run down, a developer would come into a blighted area, we use redevelopment money to subsidize the renovation and whatnot, and that really didn't end up being, you know, a community-based use. She's suggesting using funds that become available to help homeowners and residents. I like that. But also a program like that, there'd be issues with fundamental fairness. Whenever you decide to do something for people, the question is going to be, well, why them first and why not? So I'm interested in the concept as well, but the issues of fundamental fairness have to be addressed as well.
That's correct.
Because then it looks like a free-for-all.
I would like to just add one other comment regarding one of the other issues that Councilwoman Dunlap raised, and that's regarding condo conversions. That's another issue that we can certainly address in terms of specific policy or something to address it. And many cities take different approaches in terms of how they address condo conversion. Some of them tie it to the vacancy rate, but there are other standards that you can say until and unless the housing stock or the amount of available housing in a community reaches a certain level, you can't have a conversion. So there are some things that the city can do to limit or to minimize condo conversions, and we'd be happy to take a look at some of those approaches.
Mayor, I have a quick follow-up question to your comments about
Morales.
Ms. Dunlap's concept. If there was a program developed to rehab current deteriorated homes of our residents, be it senior citizens or otherwise, would those funds having been used to rehabilitate go towards our housing stock and give us credit for all of our needs?
It's unclear at the state level because, and I'm going to be frank when I say that the state's key objective is that the city maintain and increase the number of housing units. So to the extent that you're using it for rehabbing an existing unit, they're very, very conservative in terms of whether you get credit for it if it's not a new unit. However, if it's what they call a substantial rehabilitation, meaning almost tearing it down and rebuilding it, then you will get credit for it.
Well,
so
I think the intention is to bring in more people who need a home versus rehabbing the one. And the only reason I bring that up is because obviously we would all love to be able to use funds to rehab our residents' homes that are deteriorated, but the money comes with an intention that we need to fulfill, and I just wanted to address that.
It's a balancing act.
Okay. I want to move items 2 and 3.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Council members Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. Consent calendar items 2 through 10.
Move approval.
Move items 8 and 10.
Pull item 10.
All right.
8 to 10.
Okay, we
No, I
got
said
that.
pull items 8 and 10.
Okay, we got that.
Yeah.
8 and 10 or 8 through 10?
8 and 10.
8 and 10 are pulled.
And 3.
And 3. So
3, 8, and 10.
items 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9.
2,
Move approval.
6, 7,
Second.
9.
Madam City Clerk.
Council members Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. Item 3.
Staff report recommending approval of a blanket purchase order for an annual purchase of personal computers and servers from Dell Computer LP in the amount of $60,000.
Move approval.
Second.
Is there a staff report or any no staff report? Do you have any questions, Councilman Stevens?
Yeah, but my question was, what happens to the existing computers that we have, number one? The computers.
Normally with the city computers, what we do is we have a process by which we send those out to bid, I believe. I'm sorry, where we will sell those items in a public auction, I'm sorry.
As surplus property?
Right.
Ms. Matthew? The question was, how do we dispose of obsolete computer equipment?
Yes, there's an auction that we have every 4 or 5 years. We haven't had one soon, but they're right now housed at our warehouse, and we have a process that we will recycle those computers.
And what percentage of return do we achieve on that? For every dollar, are we able to sell them for 10% of what we paid for them? 20%?
No. Typically, we mark them at a price that it's pretty low. It's usually like $5 for computer hardware. They're pretty much obsolete at the point that we have to get rid of them.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I would like to make a suggestion to my colleagues. Perhaps we could somehow modify this so that what we would do is take the used computers and we donate them to the Inglewood Unified School District, so that every student there would have a computer on their desk. Would that be possible, Mr. Chambers? Mr. Fields?
Well, actually, Mr. City Attorney, would that be involved in how we deal with surplus property by charter or ordinance?
Well, at this point in time, the council would have to bring an item before it regarding surplus property. Once a determination is made that it's surplus property, according to the ordinance, there's supposed to be a bidding process.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So it isn't just as simple as this, just saying that we want to give property away, and we have rules. We'd have to change the policy.
But just to continue this thought, we do donate our fire trucks, I remember, years ago to Mexico. We do donate a number of our heavy apparatus equipment to Mexico. We're donating it to them. Why is there a difference?
I don't know. I wasn't here, or I didn't
when the city of
participate
Inglewood
in the donation.
had its own fire equipment, its own fire department, and we were not counted out. We did not county out the service. We would take our old fire equipment apparatus and we would donate it to Mexico. We've also donated other equipment to Mexico because they're in need. Whatever vehicle we use for one, we should be able to use it here. And so I would like to ask staff and you, Mr. City Attorney, and ask you colleagues to support the idea of allowing staff to research this issue, because this is something that took place. We have donated $100,000 fire trucks to Mexico.
And it might have been a sale of the items for a very nominal fee, or like $1. I don't recall. I wasn't here either, but my point is that that's fine. They could look into the vehicle used.
So maybe we could look into seeing. There's always a way. See, one thing I've learned since I've been on this council, when this council makes up its mind to do something, there is always a way to do it. And that's why the people who work in City Hall are paid the amount of money that they are paid. Because we have people here who do have the wherewithal to be able to figure out the legal way around obstacles that are presented. So I would just like to suggest that we do that.
Okay. I want to ask a couple questions. I support the concept. But let me ask you this. The equipment that we deem obsolete, would it be of use to school children?
No. Most of the equipment, if it's the motherboard goes out or something like that, no one pretty much can use it. You can use it for spare parts, but you couldn't actually plug it in and operate it.
That was the question. So the things that we sell at these nominal prices, it's not operational equipment. Is there any time that we have, like, operating PCs that we sell as surplus, or is it usually inoperative?
Majority of the stuff are equipment that we no longer can use or obsolete. There is a few times where the computer does turn on and does work, but I would not give that to someone else to use, or that would be a problem for them too.
Okay. All right. I would support anytime we come across equipment that just because it's not fast enough, that we try to determine some modality to give it to the school district if we can develop a legal vehicle to do that, but I wouldn't want to give them inoperative equipment.
Okay.
And Mayor?
Mr. Councilman Franklin?
And piggybacking to the comments of your comments and also Councilman Stevens, actually I had reached out to a number of corporations that wanted to give their used computers to the Inglewood Unified School District, and they rejected them because of their current software was not compatible to the older systems. But they did find out that, as you've indicated, that some of the older systems, they may have need of the motherboard or the RAM chips or something of that nature, which they could then strip it and use it for parts purposes, but not for operational purposes in its intact. So,
Okay.
but the idea is, as Councilman Stevens indicated, it clearly is a concept that we should look at and bring it back to us. I'd appreciate that. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Madam City Clerk?
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. Item 8.
Staff report recommending award of a contract for RSI Phase 9, Group 7, to provide residential sound installation work on 52 homes per bid number CB 1113.
I move item 1 through 5 on the
Second.
comment, Mayor.
Councilman Franklin?
Yeah, no staff report. I just want to reach out to the city manager simply because a policy has been established, also solidified in your recent weekly management report, that addresses the priority of the groupings that we'd be looking for. We had clearly identified that we would invite single dwellings first, then duplexes second, and then multi-properties third. And when you take a look at the bid package before us, there are a number of family package, multi-properties, or shall I say multi-units within a property, as well as greater than duplexes. So it may have been something that was in the hopper that this council had directed, and it was already in the hopper before that it was enacted, but just want to make sure that staff continues to monitor the direction of the council. Thank you, Mayor.
Madam City Clerk?
Council members Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. Item 10.
Staff report recommending the mayor and city council authorize the chief of police to sign a memorandum of the last one, online investigative services, to grant the Inglewood Police Department free access to the TLO online public records database.
Move approval.
Second.
Comment?
Comment?
No staff report. Just simply want to acknowledge, Mayor, that currently this council does not have a chief of police, but we have an acting chief of police. The staff report reflects that, and it's just simply that the way it was agendized does not note that. So I just want to make sure that that is identified for public's edification. Thank you, Mayor.
Madam City Clerk?
Actually, I have a comment.
Councilman Dunn.
Yes, I agree with my councilman with regard to making sure our agenda documents are accurate. It should say, of course, acting, as he mentioned, but also with regard to our form of government, we don't have a mayor and city council form of government. We have a city council form of government. So it would be staff report recommending that the city council authorize the chief of police.
Madam City Clerk?
Council members Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. With the consent of my colleagues, we're going to, Madam City Clerk, read SPH 1 through SPH 5. I'm going to make a blanket motion to move 1, 2, 3. We want 4. You want 4 independent? No. I know. Okay, 1 through 4. I got it, Mike. Okay. I got it. But we're going to read 1 through 5. But 1 through 4, we're going to move as a group, and they all have the same public hearing date.
Right.
In the interest of time. So.
Okay, I'll do that.
All right. Thank you.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Oh. You're mov-
You go ahead and read them.
Okay, I like that you guys are going fast. This
Yeah.
is good, but I still want to get it right.
Yeah.
So the motion, you're moving approval for us to do it that way?
I'm moving to do it that way, to
Okay.
take them in blanket for you to read them all
Gotcha. All
at
right.
one time,
Sure.
and we'll have a blanket motion.
Staff report regarding the annual levy of assessments for the fiscal year 2012 to 2013 in-town maintenance district number 1975-1. Staff report regarding an annual levy of assessments for fiscal year 2012-2013 Morningside Park maintenance district number 1974-2. Staff report regarding an annual levy assessment for fiscal year 2012-2013 Darby-Dixon Maintenance District number 1987-1. Staff report regarding an annual levy of assessments for fiscal year 2012-2013 Inglewood Street Lighting Maintenance District number 1980-1. Staff report requesting that a public hearing be set to consider the proposed amendment to Chapter 12 of the Inglewood Municipal Code to establish regulations for ambulance dispatch services. 1 through 4 is...
I'm adopting 1, 2, and 3 for 1 through 4.
Gotcha. Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. On an SPH 5, set the public hearing for June 19th, 2012 at 7 p.m. DR1.
Staff report recommending the mayor receives and files the Century Boulevard Mobility Improvement Project and approve the recommended streetscapes improvement elements.
Move 1 and 2.
approval.
Second.
Staff report, please.
Staff report.
Mr. Mayor and City Council, Harry Frisbee, Acting Public Works Director, will come forward.
Harry. Sir.
Mayor, members of the council, the item before you regarding the Century Boulevard Improvement Project is a status report regarding design activities, and with that we would ask for your endorsement of the recommended streetscape improvement elements. Certainly I think it's well known in the community that the pavement conditions, sidewalk, curb gutter, physical improvements along the Century Boulevard corridor show considerable deterioration, and as a consequence, the city has engaged the consulting engineering firm of AECOM to provide an extensive array of engineering services moving toward the design and then construction of improvements. The segment of the street that is included is almost the entire length of the street through the city from just to the east of the I-405 corridor at Felton Avenue to the easterly boundary of the city at Van Ness Avenue. The project has been before the community and the council members before in the form of presentations at 4 council member town hall meetings and 1 mayoral town hall meetings. I'm going to introduce to you our project manager with AECOM, Mr. Brian Valderrama, who will update the city on the progress of the design and with his team explain what has happened and what's forthcoming in the future, particularly as it relates to the public outreach activities planned as the project continues through the design phase and the environmental assessment phase. Mr. Falco and our project manager, Mr. Balderrama, are just bringing forward the PowerPoint slides, which I believe you should have received as an attachment that they will then present to you and to the people here this evening.
Thank you, council, city staff, and residents of Inglewood for hearing us today. We wanted to present to you our update on the Century Boulevard Mobility Improvement Project. Today I'll give you a project introduction. I'll go over our project elements and our team recommendation. That team recommendation is a collaborative effort with your Public Works Department, your city manager, and several other city departments. So the recommendations we're asking and bringing in front of you today are one of a collaborative effort, and then we'll follow up as your agenda with question and answers. Today I brought with me my traffic expert, Tim Ernie, to talk to you about some of our traffic analysis for the project, and Mr. Jeff Kim to talk about street improvements, most particularly the streetscape design for the corridor. As you're aware, the project limits for Century Boulevard are from Felton Avenue to Van Ness, which is the city's limits. Today, some of the elements that we're going to cover are pavement reconstruction, safety improvements, street and intersection reconfigurations, and ultimately streetscape improvements. Now for the pavement reconstruction. Our team, as first priority for this project, wanted to see for ourselves our input that we were receiving from the public. The day we were awarded, we had our first council town hall meeting that weekend, and what we found out from the residents is we need something done. You can see for yourself that the entire pavement is in disarray, and we follow up and basically found out that it's the underlying soil that's coming up on the pavement, which negates that it's well below acceptable levels and is in requirement of some sort of repair. In doing so, the next step for us was to do a life cycle cost analysis. This is a detailed analysis of every different type of pavement possible to bring to the corridor. We evaluated asphalt, concrete, rubberized asphalt, and a mixture of types, and put them against one another as far as durability, as far as cost. What that report provided is a 40-year recommendation, and what that ultimate recommendation showed was that concrete is the way to go for 40 years, and that'll ultimately be the least expensive as far as maintenance cost for the city. Now, looking at deficiencies for the corridor, this mobility project is tied as a safety improvement project as well. So along that lines, the deficiencies of the pavement needed to be looked at. When we studied the crossfall, if you abide by your county standards, the major sections within the Century Boulevard that doesn't provide the proper crossfall, and ultimately is damaging your roadway because of drainage. It's creating ponding areas, and most of the residents are avoiding those outer lanes because come the rain season or without the rain season, there's huge potholes that they want to avoid. Ultimately, we looked at all ADA requirements for the entire corridor. We didn't leave one street unturned, and it was factored into our ultimate roadway design. The improvements for this project. We're proposing on a full depth pavement reconstruction for the entire corridor. The roadway crosswall is going to be brought up to acceptable county levels for the entire corridor. Upgrades to your drainage system that match your master plan recommendations. If we're going to put brand new concrete out there, it doesn't make sense that we don't include your master plan improvements, so you have a different consultant come in a couple of years and tear up the street. All of your curb radii, we brought them up to standard. Some of them were so tight it was causing line of sight impacts for some of your residents. And in doing so, whenever possible, we increased your sidewalks throughout the corridor. The minimal sidewalk right now is 2 feet, and that's in your residential area. That will change from 2 to 19 feet once this project is constructed. There's other areas where we're trying to use 10 feet as a standard, but in all cases, to avoid property impacts, we just went with an acceptable level. And for raised median was introduced throughout the corridor where needed to provide for the mobility component of the project. And I'm going to bring Tim Ernie to talk about some of the traffic analysis.
Thanks, Brian. So for the traffic analysis, we did basically a 4-step process. The first thing was to really understand the existing conditions out there. So we did new intersection level of service analysis at 26 intersections along the corridor, all the way from the west end to the east end. And through that analysis, we were able to determine where there's current opportunities and where there's current deficiencies in the roadway network. This level of service was done during the morning and the afternoon peak commute periods, so really represent the maximum amount of traffic that would happen on Century Boulevard. As Brian mentioned, there's currently actually a dual left turn pocket through most of the corridor. At intersections, there's actually left turns, but between those intersections, there's one of those double left turn thing. Those can have some hazards and some safety issues because you're not expecting a car coming. We've had some accident problems there. So those are another thing we took a look at in terms of the accidents and the way things are actually operating. So to kind of demonstrate some of our existing findings, we created this quick little movie, a demonstration at the intersection of Century and Crenshaw. You can click on that. We can come back to that later if we need to. But basically what we did is we created a simulation video to just make sure we fully understood what the conditions were like there. We could check to see how long the backups were at the intersections and really make sure we understood how the intersections operate. So then we looked at future conditions. So the first thing we did is we took into account all the future development that's anticipated in the city. This was a background growth rate from the regional model plus the actual trip generation associated with is about 25 projects that are planned and programmed in the area, including Hollywood Park tomorrow. We also took into account any roadway geometric changes that have been proposed, once again, including the stuff from Hollywood Park tomorrow. From this, we developed a future no-build condition, and then we looked at the 2 different versions of the project, one with 3 lanes in each direction and one with 2 lanes in each direction. Through this analysis, we found there were sections of the roadway that actually you could go down to 2 lanes in each direction and maintain acceptable operating conditions. That was a really important finding from the study. We also took into account, as Brian mentioned, the implementation of a fixed median. This would limit some of the U-turn and left turn possibilities and require people maybe go additional block or 2, but we found that the safety benefits outweighed that minor inconvenience for some of the local residents. The other thing we proposed to look at was addition of second left turn pockets. There are several locations right now that the left turn extends out past the length of the pocket and can affect the flow of traffic on the major roadway. So we looked at a couple key locations where we're able to create a second left turn, and that really helped conditions flow better, as you would see if the movie was working. So is it with them? We can get to it later if there's questions on it. So ultimately, these recommendations were brought forward to the city, and working collaboratively with the Department of Public Works, we developed this kind of a comprehensive roadway plan that has different cross sections. Some are 3 lanes, some are 2 lanes, some are single left turns, some are double left turns, but overall substantially improves flow along the street.
My name is Jeff. I'm from Cornerstone Studios. We're the landscape architect. We've been working on this Century Boulevard project. We've been working with the city engineers and staff members from the Public Works Department on our design process and reviews and coordinations. We first approached our design ideas by reviewing what was proposed and approved in front of the Hollywood Park. And by understanding and capturing the main ideas and vocabulary, and we try to continue because of the entire design need to be continuous and seamless. And we then reinforce that idea of using low maintenance and drought tolerant planting by adding shrubs that are colorful and vibrant, yet requires low water and minimal care. Now we look at how we applied our ideas to actual condition. This is one of the representative section. In residential area, you're looking at standing on 3rd Avenue, looking west. As you can see, existing condition, you see the drastic changes and how much more lush it looks as a proposed. And this is another representative section at the commercial area. You're standing at intersection, Century Boulevard and Prairie, looking west. And where we have space, room in the sidewalk area, we propose double row of trees to really create lush park-like settings. So you have a sidewalk in between double rows of trees. And now I'll bring back Brian to talk about lighting.
Now, finally, for the streetscape is the street lighting for the corridor. The recommendation is to use LED lighting for Century Boulevard. And in doing so, this will give you a sample of what the residential area will look like. What those lighting fixtures are called is like a teardrop sort of configuration. And we steered from the standard street light pole because Century Boulevard isn't your standard thoroughfare. And we wanted it to be uniquely identified as somebody's coming into your city. And in the next slide is your commercial lighting, where one drastic change is there'll be a fine change in some of the details for the poles, but the actual configuration of the lighting fixture will be the ultimate identifier, where we go into a rectangular fixture that'll just emit a white light onto your roadway. And it'll be dramatically different than your streets today, where you can see that yellow incandescent light when you're out there at night. Our next steps for the project are to continue with our community meetings and continue with our environmental process. We have met with several town hall meetings to date. We'll start our official public hearing meetings in every district as possible. It'll be a very intensive process as part of the environmental. I just want to let you know, I got word this morning that at least for the environmental processes, there's the NEPA, which is federal, which is tied to the project, and CEQA, which is just the state. The NEPA, we're going to get we got verbal approval today, so they'll be officially signing that off this week for your project. And then we're going to finalize our design. We've already submitted our 65% concept design, and with your feedback today, we'll continue working hard to deliver a 95% submittal in the coming months.
Thank you. Council comments?
Yes, I have a question. First off, if you could go back to your slide at 3rd Avenue.
Sure. The streetscape?
Yeah, streetscape.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Now, that's not Third Avenue, I know you're saying it's looking west, but Third Avenue in our city travels north and south.
You're on Century Boulevard.
Okay, so that's Century Boulevard.
Yes, you're looking down Century Boulevard.
So okay. So now the wall that you have there on the right.
Correct.
We're going to have palm trees in the center of the street.
Yes, there will be palm trees in the center.
There will be palm trees in the center, and we're still going to have our sidewalk. Is that correct?
That is correct. At that particular location, you could be roughly between 15 and 18 feet of parkway.
Okay, but we're reducing the lane traffic to 2 lanes?
At that location, yes.
Currently, you can travel 3 cars abreast at that location. Though you do not have a third lane, you can have 3 cars simultaneously traveling westbound on Century. So we're surrendering a traffic lane for palm trees.
You're not surrendering a traffic lane for palm trees. It's the actual level of service when we looked into the traffic analysis that allowed us to go down a lane. And more importantly, if you ever walk on those particular streets, there's dirt on where there's supposed to be sidewalks. I got complaints from residents that they need to go opposite side of the street if they're in a wheelchair.
Wait. You mean on the northern side of Century Boulevard there's dirt sidewalks?
No.
You mean on the southern side?
No,
there's
on the southern side
embankment.
there's a barrier separation because it drops down to Century Boulevard and 102nd Street neighborhood.
Okay. All right. Here's my. If you can go now to your next slide, please. Now, earlier presenters stated that we're going to have double left turn lanes at Prairie and Century. Is that correct?
Correct.
I do not see that there. Now, how many lanes are we going to have traveling at that intersection, traveling westbound to the airport?
Have at what that particular image is showing, it is showing dual left movement, and at that location, it's going down from 3 lanes back down to 2. Okay,
so we're going down. So we're going to have drivers going from 3 lanes to 2 lanes. So once again, traveling back eastbound at Crenshaw and Century.
It'll be
on
3
the
lanes.
Opposite side, on the eastern side. On the eastern side, it shall be 2 lanes. And once you cross Crenshaw, it will expand to 3 lanes.
No,
as
once
it is
you cross
now?
the intersection, it'll be 3 lanes in both directions. At the intersection,
Okay. Once
it'll
you
stay
cross
Crenshaw.
Crenshaw, traveling west, between Crenshaw and Prairie, that will be 3 lanes. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. But when you cross Crenshaw, traveling east on Century, it will reduce to 2 lanes.
Right at 8th. 8th.
At 8th Avenue.
Yes. Yep.
And then when you arrive at Prairie and Century, where the Chevron gas station is on one side and the Taco Bell on the opposite side, it will then reduce back to 2 lanes again?
That's correct.
And that will and there will be 2 lanes all the way until you arrive at La Brea.
La Brea, Hawthorne, yes.
And then from La Brea out to the 405 freeway.
3 lanes.
Back to 3 lanes.
Yes.
So we go small, big, small. All right. So now, if you could go to your street lights, please.
Okay.
Now, I want to ask you a question, and we have consultants come here all the time.
Sure.
But one thing I usually notice is the background is where that street light is that you have there. That, of course, is not in the city of Inglewood, that background, correct?
That is correct.
So was there some way that you could have imposed that street light by way of some type of computer program showing a photograph of our actual Century Boulevard? Because I wanted to ask you this question. The funding the total cost of this remodeling is encompassing of the street lighting. Is that correct, Mr. Lockhart?
That's correct.
Yes.
And could the funding for those street lights be used for road paving? If we opted out of having street lights, these new street lights, could we in fact utilize that funding instead for road paving somewhere else, maybe on La Brea?
I believe the project budget sufficiently covers both the lighting and pavement, and it would be a normal part of the roadway improvement for both vehicle and pedestrian safety to have lighting throughout the corridor.
I understand that, but we have street lights already. What I'm trying to do is get the biggest bang for the buck here. We have street lights, number one. Yes, that's a beautiful street light. Out in you have a country fence there. It looks like someone's ranch in the background. But we don't have that here in Inglewood. All right.
Right.
So my point is that I have to get the maximum that I can out of every dollar. And my only question to you is this. I have a series of roads in the city of Inglewood on major thoroughfares such as La Brea
Right.
that needs to be repaved. I also have residential streets that do. Is there some way that we could utilize the funding for those street lights, since we already have working street lights, then utilize that funding instead for a residential street or for La Brea? That's the first part of the question. The second part of the question that I have for you is this, is that when we start talking about, well, go ahead and answer that question.
The short answer is
we're at time, but we'll go on and finish.
the short answer is no. The specific funding for this is dedicated to the Century Boulevard corridor, and I don't believe that those funds can be transferred to other locations.
Okay. Councilman Donovan.
Yes, thank you. With regard to the street lighting, the last time we spent money on street lighting was for downtown on Market Street, and it's been a disaster, meaning the contractor put in some lights that looked ornate, interesting, but they didn't give off any light. This city council has on 2 different occasions had to spend additional money to have them reworked or different things, twice actually. And still, if you were to go in downtown Inglewood at night, it's dark. I mean, the stores aren't open anyway, but who would want to be walking down there? It's dark. You know, it's just not inviting. So I'm hoping that with your expertise and our staff, that whatever lights you are proposing give off, if not the same light with regard to intensity, but additional, because people like well-lit areas. It gives you a feeling of safety, and it's just better all around. So I'm hoping that that's the case, and maybe you can we can get some information later on with regard to, is this lighting enhancing those that are still working, the lights that are there? Is it additional lighting?
Okay.
And to what magnitude and so forth? Because that's very, very, very important.
I'll love to give you that detailed information that we have at a later time, but just to give you background, yes, we have our experts, and on top of that, the city has its lessons learned. So we rarely learn from our mistakes. So in this particular,
it's a nice thought.
In this particular case, I have heard the lessons that were learned from some of those areas you mentioned, and we took that into full consideration.
All right, great.
In addition, we actually have light meters that we presented calcs to your city and presented them meters so they could test for themselves that what our recommendations are exceeding the city requirements. And so.
Great. And also with regard to your streetscapes, the trees and so forth, when any member of the public goes to other cities with regard to their thoroughfares that are attractive, they have green belts, they have mature trees, and that's what's been sorely lacking. So I, for one, appreciate the fact that there's going to be some trees, and I do hope they're mature so they look good initially. But that's what we like to see. We like to see mature trees. It just makes us feel good, and besides making the city look a lot better. So we want to make sure everything is well lit. We want to make sure that the trees are mature, and it looks to me like the planning that's going into it is going to pay off for us, and the community meetings, even though Century Boulevard, of course, is not in District 2, we drive it in District 2. We drive it almost every day, just about everybody. So I appreciate the fact that you will be seeking input throughout the entire city with regard to your ultimate final design. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Rouse.
Obviously, there's a lot of things that we've probably shared in terms of our city staff with you, of what we've learned in the past and what we're kind of looking forward to. There are some concerns in terms of the traffic turning in from 3 lanes to 2 lanes. While I really like the design, can you speak a little bit about how you, I know there was a study made, but maybe make it specific why the anticipated, like, fears won't actually come into play because of some of the studies that you've done, what you've actually gotten out of it, what you specifically looked at in terms of saying, hey, right here we could do 2 lanes, we don't anticipate there being a problem.
Sure. So for your entire city, we got a approved project list for the next 20 years. In addition to that, we have Hollywood Park's build-out condition. So as they develop, Century Boulevard will be able to handle their ultimate end condition. And as far as the reductions from 3 to 2 lanes, we looked at what's called a level of service analysis in order for traffic to move on free flow condition through the corridor. And those areas where we're reducing down to 2 lanes would keep the traffic moving and would not be impeded by traffic. Ultimately, the largest project out there could be the Forum, and that was taken into consideration. Those traffic volumes will be off-peak, so the majority of the level of service for traffic for the corridor, it won't be affected. It's going to be a one-time event basis, and our no traffic model can be designed to event model. It'll be too costly for your city.
Okay, and then if you could address a little bit of if everything goes as planned, the timeline, and how you'll be structuring the construction from piece by piece.
So the timeline is to start construction in January, where that'll be the city's bidding process, and depending on how many days you want to bid your project, it'll go out for selection. We have 9 to 10 phases for construction as our recommendation right now. Day 1, we said we didn't want to impact residents, or we didn't want and reduce impact to your commercial development. So that's why we have so many phases to basically handle one main intersection at a time. And within each phase, it has 3 to 4 constructions where we go from the outside in order to move traffic along and maintain the existing numbers of lanes.
Okay, that's all I have.
Councilman Franklin.
Yes, let me just piggyback where my colleague was talking about the timeline. The council recruited your firm for our surveyors. And now I'm hearing you talk about that you may be the construction manager?
No, we won't. We're only design.
Okay,
so... And these are, you're right, let me apologize. These are our recommendations, because our contract is only for design. Okay. You can accept our stage construction or reconfigure it based on the city's needs.
Okay, and then also the concern that has brought to the attention of this council and possibly the Inglewood residents as well is how we take you call it 3 lanes to 2 lanes, but for the clarification, it's 1 way for 2 lanes to 3 lanes. So you're actually talking about 6 lanes down to 4 lanes on different segments of Century Boulevard, correct?
Correct.
So when we get to the Hollywood Park project, there in the plan, it already talks about a new right-hand turn lane to go into the complex. So that's why you're able to take a current existing lane and making it a right-hand turn as well, going northbound on Prairie.
So for the Hollywood Park, their entire development, we'll actually have 7 lanes. 4 lanes in one direction along the property of Hollywood Park to include that exclusive right turn lane throughout their entire property, and then maintain 3 lanes in the opposite direction.
Okay, and I want to thank you and your staff for coming repeatedly to several town hall meetings in District 4, where you were sensitive enough to allow the residents to give input and that the way that I don't see the map here today, but you actually broke down all of the streets, all of the roadway, so people could have a better feel as to what impact it's going to have in a certain part of the community, so they could in fact have a better understanding or appreciation about whether or not we need additional turn lanes, or if we want it to be pedestrian friendly, or whether or not we decided that we needed islands to help beautify the Century Boulevard. So the next comment I want to address is that the design that you're proposing, and I'll go on Century Boulevard from Van Ness to Crenshaw, where we're going from 6 lanes down to 4, that east of Van Nuys is still 6 lanes. So what have you did the analysis to determine whether or not there's going to be bottleneck congestion at that intersection as they're now trying to enter into Central Boulevard, or are they going to now try to go down Van Ness to 104th to then get to Crenshaw, go around because the traffic may be too bottlenecked?
Right. So yes, we did look into that. We looked into existing condition where in the adjacent street, yes, it's 3 lanes, but once you get an intersection out, it goes down to 2 lanes and back to 3 lanes again outside of the city of Inglewood. And we looked at that particular area to see how traffic would impact at different times of the day, not only on Century Boulevard, but we looked at other streets such as Manchester and alike to see if the fluctuations between a 4-lane and a 6-lane configuration ultimately had impact on the driver's experience.
Okay. And then my final comment has to do with the segment of Central Boulevard between Crenshaw and Prairie. We have some recent retail establishments that have come into the shopping centers, particularly the In-N-Out Burger on the north side of the property, Chili's, Red Lobster on the south side in that area, and that during the holiday period, it is gridlock traffic. So with your assessment as to the design of the street with islands, what was your design proposal on helping us to help move that traffic east and west?
Where possible, even with the introduction of raised medians, a lot of these left turn pockets were increased as much as possible through one intersection to the next, that allowed for safety and allowed for those that wanted to turn into the village area or across the street could do so without affecting the mobility of traffic on Century Boulevard to the best that we could see.
So you're talking about in the middle of the roadway having left-hand turn lanes, but nothing about right-hand turn lanes that would create an additional pocket to go into the different shopping centers?
There was an extension of a right turn lane, I believe, in the Club Drive intersection that was lengthened because our traffic was showing so many people were entering the Costco at night that needed to be increased. But it was increased as much as possible without impacting one of these adjacent to Century Boulevard.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Could you go back to 3rd Street and Century?
Sure.
It goes down to 2 lanes. First of all, I want to compliment you on your design work, and I think this will be a great addition to the city. But this particular area between Crenshaw and Van Ness, I was at the Century Heights Block Club meeting, the area where I live, and they almost took pitchforks to me about the 2 lanes. And they feel that that's going to be a problem for them as far as their ability to access Century Boulevard. Now, I will tell you this from personal experience because this is how I leave out of Century Heights to go to work. You have 2 choices when you're between Van Ness and Crenshaw, between Century and 104th, if you want to go westbound. You're going to go out to 104th Street and go to Crenshaw, make a right, and wait the left turn pocket, or you're going to come down to 2nd Avenue, which is the street immediately before Van Ness, and because those 3 lanes are there and traffic is usually spread out, you can make your left and go westbound. Now, doesn't seem like it's going to be an option when it chokes down to 2 lanes. And so, my response was that engineers do studies, they model, they forecast, and they feel it'll flow. But we all know there are times when objective reality hits a design and there are anomalies that are not accounted for. And what I need to know is, has there any thought or eyes on observation been given to the fact that a number of people leave Century Heights and they attempt to turn left to go westbound Century, and that may be foreclosed. So do we have any plans to pre-stripe this before we set everything in concrete so that we can see actual modeling that occurs in reality, or are we like pregnant once we do this?
We can, in working with the Public Works Department, we can work out something to expedite the actual striping of Century Boulevard. Right now, the discussion was that we would restripe the project as we got towards.
And I like that. I'm saying when we get, since the last phase is that from Century to from Crenshaw to Van Ness, is there any way we can pre-stripe it immediately before we start construction so that we can, assure the residents that they will have something that's livable? Or if there are other workarounds we have to do, that we can do them before we pour concrete?
Yes, before contractor is even awarded, the thought is to restripe the areas that'll go down to 2 lanes on Century.
All right, thank you. Madam City Clerk.
Member Stevens.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. DR2.
Staff report recommending adoption of a resolution to deny the amendment to a special use permit number 1105 to modify the conditions of approval to maintain certain trees in the relations to the church use at 333 North Prairie Avenue.
Move for adoption.
Madam City.
Second.
Quick question from Councilwoman Dunlap.
Yes, what's the source of funding for these commissions?
For what? We're on DR2. We're on DR2.
Tree.
Oh, the tree.
Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. DR3.
Staff report recommending approval of professional service agreements with 2 Inglewood-based real estate brokers and represent the city as the listing agents for 4 homes acquired under the Neighborhood Stabilization Program.
Move items 1 through 3.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
I have a comment.
Oh, Councilman Stevens.
Yes, I just had a simple question. Can someone please tell me, in reference to this, will other realtors be able to participate? I know we had a number of individuals come up to the podium and state that they support Brass and Brass Enterprises, and I have no problem with the company. I'm only concerned, we had a situation with the Renaissance years ago where realtors where we were promised that they would be able to participate with the Renaissance project, and come to find out they were actually excluded. Will other realtors be able to, if they have a client, bring them to Brass and Brass and participate in the commission? Or is this just totally exclusive for just them?
No, Brass and Brass will be representing the city as the brokers for the seller. The city's at the seller, but other real estate agents and brokers can bring buyers to Brass and Brass for these particular properties, yes.
Okay. So it's a level playing field?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and everyone can participate?
Yes.
Outstanding. Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Dunlap.
Yeah, I have a question. The source of funding for the real estate commissions?
The proceeds from the sale of the properties at close of escrow.
That money doesn't have to go back to, what is it, initially was home funds? Refresh my memory on this, on the source of money for the purchase of the properties.
It was originally a grant from the state, from the HUD through the state under the Neighborhood Stabilization Program for the acquisition of the properties.
Right.
The sale utilizing brokers or other legal services or appraisal services to be paid from the proceeds of the sale is an eligible expense. Any funds that are remaining, for example, the NSP program owes the city $200,000 that's being borrowed to rehabilitate the homes. right off the top of the sale of the first home, that money to the city. So any outstanding fees or bills that are due come off the top of the proceeds, and any remaining funds can be revolved to purchase another foreclosed and abandoned home to make it available.
Do we plan on doing that?
Yes, we do. Subsequent to all fees and everything being paid.
Okay, well, my comment to that is the fact that we purchase these, we're looking high and low to find something 1% under the appraised value. I mean, you can buy homes today 20-30% under the appraised value. So why we're looking for things that are only 1% under appraised value, I don't know. So I think we need to relook at what we're doing so that we can get more value and purchase more homes and provide more home ownership opportunities. But actually, I want to make a comment, Mayor, with regard to our process and procedure, and I support our local business people. But our process and procedure, I find fault with, and that is the letter that went out to solicit interest of local brokers, of which we're approving two this evening. The letter that went out says, Dear Real Estate Professional, the City of Inglewood is seeking representation of licensed real estate agents or brokers to sell for formerly foreclosed homes acquired through the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development federally funded neighborhood stabilization program. Letter goes on to kind of more or less describe it, to solicit interest from the community, because one person at the beginning of the meeting asked about, did everyone have an opportunity? This letter was sent out on June 30th, 2011, and people were given 4 work days to respond. They were told that the date on the letter is June 30th. Now, we can hope it was mailed on the 30th. Maybe it was mailed on July 1st. But they had required to be postmarked no later than July 6th. July 4th was a holiday. So what, we give people 4 work days to respond, and then 11 months later, we award the opportunity to these local businesses, 11 months. So obviously, we weren't in a time crunch. So what I'm talking about, Mayor, is process and procedure. 4 days was not a reasonable time frame. Some people might not even open their mail yet. So like I say, I support our local business people who are getting this tonight. I'll be voting for it. But we have a problem in-house when we're going to send a letter out, tell people they have 4 work days to respond, and then 11 months later is when we give out the contract. Obviously, we had time. We could have given 30 days, 45 days to make sure everyone had an opportunity here. And once again, when we talk about the level playing field with regard to potential buyers, I do have some concerns, and I think this body needs to have some discussions on how that's going to be handled. We have 4 homes. Now, there's a qualifying process. They must, individuals obviously must qualify by income, but they also must attend a program and get a certificate with regard to having gone through this home ownership program. They must be a first-time home buyer. But who's to determine? I mean, there's 4 homes. There's probably at least several hundred people want to buy these 4 homes. I think this body needs to determine, with some suggestions from staff, how we're going to go about doing that. It can't just be who happens to be holding an offer in their hand. There's a process and procedures, a by date. I know people are interested right now. Maybe they've already been through the whole process. Maybe they're already qualified. And that's another thing. That's be pre-qualified by a lender. But the training program they're required to go through, if they have all these papers in hand today, are they at the front of the list? Have we even started a list? I think it's critical that we make sure there is a level playing field and that everybody has a fair opportunity to purchase these homes. So let's get a report back from staff on how we're going to do this.
If I may, Mayor, to address that issue.
Yeah, all right.
The council did approve a process back in 2011, I believe, to set an equal playing field for the reason you just mentioned. And I can let Pamela go through that, but I believe ultimately there's a lottery that if there's 100 people, they'll be put into a hat, and we'll choose 4 people from that process. So everybody will have the same opportunity to purchase these homes.
So then those individuals who qualify under
Right.
all the criteria,
Will be put into the hat.
and then I would suggest that be a public, open to the public type of lottery. Thank you.
Any other comment? Madam
Mayor, just
Councilman
comment.
Franklin.
Just for the clarification for the process, that the report identifies that it was on June 30th that the staff contacted 43 local real estate brokers. So of those, there was only a few of them that actually had the experience needed to qualify, and that's how the two that are before us have become the finalists for this council to adopt. So don't want to come across that whether it's 4 days, 3 days, that staff did their due diligence by reaching out to at least 43 companies, of which 2 actually met the criteria that was needed. And so, as you've indicated, it'll be a lottery system if there's that great demand. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk.
Council members. Council members Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. DR. No, we're done with those. CM1.
Staff report recommending approval of agreement with Consolidated Waste Disposal Services, LLC, for integrated solid waste management services.
Move approval.
Staff report.
Second.
Actually, Mayor, in the staff report, I have 3 questions. I'd like them to make sure it gets in the staff report, if I may. Some information I just want them to include in the staff report when they're giving it. I'd like them to name for the public's information all of those from the city side who participated in the negotiations, and why the overall cost to all ratepayers was increased from the original proposal, how that happened, and how and when, what is the procedure for the contract to end. The council will have to take action. Is it an automatic termination? Because I didn't actually see that language. Thank you.
So go to your staff report, Mr.
My name is Darrell Brown, Deputy City Manager, and what you have before you tonight is a recommendation from staff for the Mayor and City Council to approve a 10-year agreement with Consolidated Disposal Services for integrated solid waste management services, commencing on August 1st, 2012. Now, as you know, the City of Inglewood is currently under contract with Waste Management. They have a 7-year agreement that was slated to expire in November of 2011. In the summer of 2011, the City Council took 2 actions. Number 1, they took an action to extend the agreement with Waste Management on a month-to-month basis, and that extension would run through November 30th of 2012. The Council also took action to direct staff to solicit an RFP to solicit proposals from other entities that may want to provide these type of services to the city. An RFP was issued, and the city received 4 responses, 3 of which were deemed to be responsive. The responsive proposals were received from Waste Management, Consolidated Disposal, and Athens Services. The City Council on February 23rd of 2012 had a hearing and received testimony and presentations from each of the 3 entities. They asked extensive questions and received an elaborate presentation. They also received comments from the public and questions from the public. On March the 27th, the City Council directed that the staff begin a 45-day negotiating period with Consolidated Disposal Services to develop a final agreement for City Council consideration. The staff has been in discussions with Consolidated and has presented to you tonight a contract for your consideration. Now, let me begin by referring you to the slide, and the slide reflects the initial RFP proposal received from Consolidated. As you can see, they provided 2 basic options to the city for contract terms. The first option was an 8-year contract term, which contained a provision for a $5 million upfront franchise fee. And the contractor rates are reflected as indicated. For a residential 3-cart service, the first year rate would be contractor rate would be $13.60. The first year contract rate for commercial service on a standard 3-yard bin for the first year would be $108.93 in the 8-year proposal. As an alternative, Consolidated also provided for a 10-year agreement which had contractor rates as reflected. This 10-year agreement would also come with a 5-year upfront franchise fee, but would also contain a one-time franchise fee payment of $1.25 million in year 9. Next slide, please. After reviewing the proposal, staff developed the opinion that it was best to begin the discussions from a perspective of trying to obtain a 10-year contract. So as you see in this slide here, it's a comparison between their initial 10-year proposal and the ultimate recommendation of the proposals contained in the contract before you tonight. As I indicated earlier, the RFP, the original proposal was a 10-year term with a $5.0 million one-time franchise fee in year 1. It also contained a $1.25 million franchise fee payment in year 9. For comparison purposes, the rate changes in the RFP plan, the rate adjustments were guided primarily through the rate adjustment formula that is contained in the contract, and this formula remained the same for both residential and commercial throughout the term of the contract. The recommended contract is slightly different, calls for a 10-year term, a $5 million one-time fee in year 1, and also a $1.25 million one-time fee in year 2. The residential rate adjustment formula is slightly different in the recommended contract in that it calls for an additional 1% rate adjustment in years 2 and 4 of the contract for the residential side of the formula only. The commercial side of the formula would remain the same. The slide also indicates, say, a variance or a change in the residential rate, contractor residential rate charged under the recommended contract. Next slide, please. What you see here is a listing of cities in the area, and each of these cities has contractors that provide refuse service both for their residential and commercial contracts. And as you can see, the proposed contractor rate for the city of Inglewood is competitive with a number of cities listed in the area. Next slide, please. This slide indicates the actual customer billing rate equivalents, and it shows that the current billing rate is $13.47 for the described residential service and $129.37. This is per month for a typical commercial contract. The new rates, which would become effective on December 1st, according to the contract, show or illustrated there. And I just want to indicate to the council the terms of this contract are such that the current rates would remain in effect until November 30th of this year. Next slide, please. And what you see here is an illustration of comparison for comparison purposes of the customer rates for the city of Inglewood versus the other cities that were illustrated before. Next slide, please. Now I'd like to just go over a few of the contract enhancements that are contained in the proposed contract. Number one, the contract provides for point of sale purchases here in the city of Inglewood. This would help the city, so when Consolidated purchases major equipment or new carts or equipment associated with their service, it would happen here in the city of Inglewood, and therefore we would retain the sales tax from those sales. They also have a provision in the contract where they will work with the local career centers in order to hire 26
Inglewood residents for employment in the Los Angeles County area. They would also open up a local office within the city limits to facilitate the ease of payment and payment for their customers in the city as well. There's a sanitation compliance portion of the contract that provides for an annual amount of up to $240,000. This money would be used for monitoring enforcement of anti-dumping and anti-scavenging operations in the city. There's also an infrastructure impact fee associated with this contract that would be in an annual amount of up to $150,000. This money would be used to repair the streets and sidewalks and alleyways along where the service is provided. A lot of times the trucks have an impact on the streets and the roadways when they're providing service. There's also a provision for abandoned item collections. Currently, under the terms of the current contract, the city forces are responsible for cleaning up the alleyways for abandoned collections and in the public right-of-way. And this is an enhancement whereby in this contract, Consolidated would be responsible for assuming that responsibility, thus freeing up city resources to be assigned to other duties. There's also a curbside battery collection provision in the contract. Typically, you're not supposed to dispose of your batteries in trash cans, so the company will, at no charge, provided that these batteries are properly enclosed and contained on top of the carts, will dispose of these at no cost to the city. There's also a reuse program whereby, in order to satisfy our requirements to divert trash from landfills, the company will enact a number of programs designed to facilitate things like bicycles and clothing and a number of other typical items that are placed in the trash can to try to divert them and have them reused and recycled within the city. There's also a community paper shredding component. You know, there are a lot of individuals, especially senior citizens, that throw away their personal information and are subject to all types of crimes and everything. So there's a component here whereby on a quarterly basis, at no charge, the company will provide free shredding services to the residents. There's also a unique My Republic Rewards program where participating customers, residential customers, will be encouraged to recycle and be qualified for certain prizes that includes gift cards to local Inglewood businesses. Next slide, please. There's also provisions for a SHARP program. As you know, many residents are diabetic and use insulin and may use syringes, and we want to make sure that they are those types of items are properly disposed of. So there's provisions for providing that type of program. There's also provisions at no charge for bins to have graffiti removed from them. All we would have to do is notify the company, and they will clean those bins as often as it takes at no additional charge. There's also a public education production component whereby the company will utilize Inglewood businesses for printing flyers and informational items that they disperse in the city. There's also, like the current contract, provisions for liquidated damages. If the company does not adhere to all of the provisions, they will be subject to liquidated damages. And I'd like to say that in addition to the $5 million and the money that I've addressed earlier, there's also provisions for the city to receive, if this contract is approved, approximately $3.4 million annually in fees, less bad debt that's associated with this contract. That concludes my presentations, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, Councilman Stevens? When it comes to your time, they're going to answer.
I have other questions.
That's fine. It's fine. It'll be on your time.
I pass. It's okay. I pass.
Councilwoman Della?
Actually, it's not fine that he did not include in the staff report these critical issues, because apparently we're going to have 5 minutes. I want the public to know that this very critical 10-year contract, which is very expensive to you, was just given to members of the body, the final draft this morning. This morning. Tuesday morning. It wasn't available online all weekend. The final draft was given this morning. The first thing I would ask this council to do is, whether you support it or don't support it, is table it for 2 weeks to give the public an opportunity to take a look at the details, because they're the ones going to be footing the bill. So I want to put that on the table. Secondly, I want to speak to some other issues that have been brought to lots of people's attention, but apparently it's been ignored. The sample RFP, when we sent out some sample language in the contract, stated that with regard to default remedies and liquidated damages, you see up there liquidated damages, it says that if the company engages in or attempts to practice any deceit upon the city or makes a misrepresentation regarding material information to the city. Well, if that were the case, then the city shall be entitled to unilaterally terminate this agreement. This was explained to all of the vendors when they submitted their RFP, and yet in this, see, it says Republic. They responded to our consultant when asked on their letterhead. Lots of questions they responded to, but one in particular, it says defaults. They wrote, no defaults within the past 15 years. Notice of default from the City of Cudahy City Manager. I write this letter to provide consolidated disposal service with notice of default under Section 4.4 of the Agreement for Solid Waste and Recyclable Materials Collection Service by and between the City of Cudahy and Consolidated Disposal Services. The past due amount to the city totals $1.2 million. Default, a letter of default. So why did they present to the city a document said that they didn't default within the last 15 years? I consider that a misrepresentation to this council, which may have altered our decision to negotiate with them. We may have chose to negotiate with a company that was actually ranked the best by our consultant, the best in service, best in rates, as opposed to this company. Now, ultimately, they cured the default, but it was a default nonetheless. So I'm very concerned about that. Also, I don't understand. I asked who negotiated on our behalf, because I find it quite curious that the ratepayers, meaning the business people of this community and you as residents in totality, are actually going to be paying more money after we negotiated with them. You're not paying less, you're paying more than what they submitted on the RFP. In December, they're getting an annual increase in December. December is just a few months from now. So why not wait a whole year before the increase? I'm very concerned that my constituents, as well as everybody else in the city, at the end of this contract period of 10 years, are going to be paying $25 million more to this service provider, Consolidated, than at least one other one that submitted to us that was ranked the highest in service, best in service. That's money out of your pocket. I'm not saying that's all you're being billed. That's how much extra you're being billed. I think that $25 million belongs in your bank accounts, and the business down the street belongs in their bank account. We shouldn't be giving it to a trash hauler. That's $25 extra million. I don't know where everybody's head is at over here. I don't understand that at all. But I brought it to the attention of the consultant early on, several months ago. I said, well, this statement here says they haven't defaulted in 15 years. I said, I know of at least one city where they've defaulted. And they asked me what city was that, and I said, well, actually, you're going to be paid a whole lot of money. I think you need to find it. But I have a letter from the city manager right here. I also spoke to several members of this body regarding the issue, but apparently it's not important to anyone. It's important to me. I expect people to be credible when they do business with this city. And I actually would like staff to respond to my questions that I posed. Name, I want to know who is on the city side who participated in negotiations, because obviously we were not represented well, because now the ratepayers of the city in totality are paying more than what they offered us in the RFP, which was still an outrageous amount of money. I'm going to repeat my questions. And then, and why is the first annual increase in just 5 months? And when and how will this contract terminate?
What's the process and procedure? Do we have to take action for it to terminate, or is it an automatic termination? I still want my colleagues to consider holding us off for 2 weeks, still vote exactly how you're going to vote, but allow the public an opportunity to read this document. They're going to be paying their trash bill every month for 10 years.
Okay, Mr. Fields, will you answer the questions, please?
Yes, Mayor. City
Oh,
Council.
one more quick thing, Mayor, if I may. One thing in here that I find extremely offensive, it says that customers, meaning you, customers will be assessed by the company, this rate company, a late payment fee of 10% of the outstanding balance after 60 days, plus an annual interest rate of 12%. You can buy a house today for 3.5%, but you're going to pay a 12% interest rate on your unpaid trash bill now.
Mr. Fields.
These are called hidden fees and charges.
Mr. Fields.
Yes, Mayor and City Council. The individuals that served on the negotiating team were myself, Jim Davis, Daryl Brown. We had a representative from HF&H on our team, and Angela.
Who was that?
It was Lisa. Last name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did Lisa ever bring up to you the default with Cudahy?
No, I did not.
Okay. Next quick question.
The second issue about in terms of why the rates are increasing. As you know, we've historically had lower rates than most cities in the region. Waste Management indicated that they were having their rates were very low when they were managing the project, and they were going to, as a result of their RFP, increase the rates. So the rate increase simply reflects the increased cost in providing the service.
Okay, Mr. Fields, excuse me just a moment, if I may, Mayor, please, if you'll indulge me just an extra minute.
I'll indulge you.
Actually, Mr. Fields, be mindful. 3 companies submitted proposals to this body. The company that was rated by our consultants to provide the best service to municipalities, the best service to customers, had the lowest rates. So don't talk about high rates about somebody else. Let's talk about what was on the table here.
Well,
they had much lower rates than any of these. And now you and the negotiating team are asking my constituents, as well as everybody else, to pay $25 million extra over the next 10 years for a service they could have gotten for $25 million less.
Well, the City Council directed us to negotiate it with one service provider, and so that's what we did. And we do believe that based on the costs that are being charged to residents in this region, that we were successful in ensuring that our rates would remain one of the lowest rates in this region. So I think that we achieved what we were asked to achieve.
Oh, I disagree. But you have, I think there was another question.
The last question was?
Oh, the termination of what's the process to terminate the agreement at the end? It would automatically terminate after 10 years, and then the council would have to vote to extend it, and I think it's two
1-year contracts.
2 1-year contracts.
Okay, can you tell me where that is? Because I actually was looking for it and couldn't find it.
Okay, well, Mr. Brown will look for that, and he'll give it to you later.
No, all right, and also I'd like to know why we were given this very lengthy contract today, the night that you have it before us. I think that's very poor public policy that this contract was given to us today. I have never seen this contract until today. I spoke about 3 weeks ago about the fact that when we were going to give some direction to our negotiators. Why was it given to us today? Why would you keep it on the agenda when it was just given to us today? Why not give it us today and then have it on the agenda a week or two? Don't you consider that a better public policy, better in the public interest with regard to transparency of what we're doing?
Well, if the council should decide to put it over, I welcome that, and we can do that. But at this point, the contract is ready, and we just thought it was in our best.
thought. So this is, in your opinion, it wasn't necessary?
I placed it on the agenda.
No, but actually, Mayor, I think it's important that people...
Councilwoman, I understand that, but your time is up.
My time is up, yeah.
And we'll have another 5 at the end. Councilman Morales.
Mayor, he has 4 gold for yours truly this week.
Oh, please.
Well, actually, let me first of all thank Mr. Fields and Mr. Darrell Brown, because when yours truly has been known for reading the council packets, and even though I did Relay for Life, I pressed the envelope and I got a draft, of which I did my due diligence, and then also solidified the fact that the draft that has also been reviewed by our city attorney is now the final product that is before us. So that being said, I want to address some of the bullet points that's in the packet that has not been admirably discussed, and I want to make sure it's clear for the record. So I did my list, so here we go. The 3-cart service for 1 year is at $13.22 from August 1 to November 30th. Then there's a 3-cart service that will be $12.11 effective December 1st, and the city receives $67,500 per month from August to November 2012, according to my calculations, which equates to $270,000. Question, what are the funds going to be used for?
Well, the funds will be used for activities related to a myriad of services. The anti-scavenging is one of the things. Anything to aid recycling, the
we'll
repair.
move on. So it's for waste use.
Correct.
It will be something dealing with this contract.
Correct.
Good. And my next one is the cost is actually $13.22 or $12.11, depending on what time period it is. And I'll use the residential and the multifamily unit dwellings. That is per unit, not per dwelling, because there are 3 carts that is at the residence, so it's times 3, if I understood that. Am I correct? So that instead of it being $13.22, all 3 bins are for $13.22?
Yeah.
Recycling, refuse, and green waste.
Yes. Excellent. Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. The other part of it is that the single-family dwelling is identified as 4 or fewer residential dwellings, as opposed to multifamily dwellings as 5 or more resident dwelling units. There is a reduced rate for seniors and disabled customers to $10.90 effective December 1, 2012. And the rate year is not comparable to that of our city year. The rate year is December 1 to November 30th. Then there's an admin fee of $150,000, and my question is that to encumber the outside legal counsel representing the city and HF&H?
I'm sorry.
Or is that simply for our outside law firm?
It's for anything connected with negotiating this particular contract, any expenses that the city incurred.
Moving fast as I can. Mayor, will we be given some more time to speak? Please. I'll do it fast as I can. Franchise fee is one time of $5 million within 30 days of execution of the agreement. The franchise fee of one time of $1,250,000 by December 1, 2013. Then I have a question. What is the quarterly franchise fee of 27%? And I tried to identify that, and I wasn't quite certain.
That's the difference between what the city pays the contractor and what the city bills the customer to cover a number of expenses incurred in providing the service.
So it's something other than the infrastructure impact fee?
That's correct.
Okay, so good. So the infrastructure impact fee annually is $150,000. Public education, broadcasting, and outreach fee annually is
up to.
Well, okay, up to $390,000. Solid waste compliance fee annually up to $240,000, and then training fee for our employees annually is up to $10,000, and then our service center fee, which is over at the city yard, is up to $20,000, which equates to up to $810,000 annually for a 10-year contract of $8.1 million.
That's correct.
Okay. Then we talk about the refuge cart overreach. There's 2 annual pickups at no charge. Operational clean sweep 2 annually at no charge. Bulk item pickup with unlimited bulk items at no charge. And then what I clearly want to make sure that there was a partnership, and that was Pacific Coast Waste and Recycling as the exclusive subcontractor for permanent and temporary roll-off box services. 3 more items so I can speak, and I'll be through.
1 more minute.
Okay, 1 more minute. There is also a new item called the Republic Rewards Program that will offer individual residents gift cards and they will identify 4 zones or within the city, and annually they will provide up to $5,000 for a community project within that zone, which is something new and exciting.
Councilman, for the zone that wins the recycling effort.
Yes, for recycling. That's correct. Then I'm also excited about the bus stop litter container collection to be done by the waste hauler. That would include cleaning of the liners, the tops of containers. For those that ride the buses at least once a month, it will be a breath of fresh air knowing that will be maintained and not have to rely on outside services or the city staff to try to maintain that. They're also going to have a website that will develop by waste hauler and will be maintained. And then finally, Mayor, there is a school recycling plan for waste hauler to education plan for schools to provide workbooks and materials and provide a recycling plan for each student. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Morales.
Councilman Franklin did a pretty good job of covering everything that we might have brought up in terms of the bullet points. In terms of the actual specific, one thing I wanted to be specific on is the employee training. Is that for the employees that will be some of the 26 employees that are going to be hired from the city of Inglewood, or is that specific to something else, maybe the recycling, education, or what is that?
Are you referring to the commitment to hire 26?
Yeah,
Inglewood?
And then there was an amount.
I think the contract says that they're going to be working with local training,
okay.
like the WIB or
that's
something
what
like that.
That's what it's going to go to.
Right.
Okay. And now, in terms of Councilwoman Dunlap brought up the default. I'd like actually for our consultant from HFH, Mayor, if they could come forward.
Please.
And I'd like them to explain, because obviously that's the first time some of us have heard about it, but obviously you've taken the application and what you define as a default.
I honestly do not recall specifically about Cudahy. And asking for a default, if somebody was late on a payment and then paid it, that may or may not be considered a default under a contract. Typically, that's a service. If somebody defaults on providing service and a contract is terminated, so that's the best I can speak to on that. Do you have another question?
That's kind of the clarification I wanted you to come up with. Now, in terms of, the thing about this particular contract is that the residents are concerned more in terms of what kind of quality. We're used to a specific type of standard. Mr. Agee pointed that out earlier. How will we establish the standard we expect and continue to maintain that all the way? I don't know if anybody from Consolidated is here that can address that. Maybe in terms of the quality of the vehicles that are going to be provided, the quality of the carts, the quality of the service. Can anyone come up and address those things?
Good evening. James Castro, General Manager for Consolidated Disposal Service for Public Services. As far as the quality, all brand new trucks are being deployed for this contract. All brand new carts are being deployed. As far as service, we will, I believe as part of the ongoing monitoring contract with the HF&H, be meeting with the city and staff on a regular basis just to do that. And as you see me here and my partners here on a regular basis, will be a fixture at the council meetings to take on questions. We will have a local office actually just right across the street that concerns will be fed in directly to us, and it is via resident from Inglewood that we've already pre-screened, and we're just waiting for execution of that contract.
Thank you. And in regards to the for now, Mr. Castro, that's good in terms of the quality, but I guess what I want to know, Mr. Brown, is in terms of developing the programs that are going to be developed for our residents, whether it be recycling, whether it be some sort of education, what kind of input is staff here going to continue to have that input for that?
Well, we'll certainly continue to monitor the contract. There's adequate liquidated damages in the contract to penalize the contractor if they fail to perform. However, based upon the cooperation we've received, I don't anticipate that, but we will always be on guard and be vigilant.
And I just want to point out that I'm sure for all of us up here on the council, our goal was to get the residents the best service for the best rates, with the understanding that waste service has been going up every year. The price of the landfill has been going up. So those are things we understand, but I believe this contract addresses that in terms of the benefit for the residents. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Madam City Clerk, I know that we had a motion. Was there a second?
Yes.
All right. Madam City Clerk, call the roll.
Excuse me, could we read the motion, please?
The motion is to approve the the item that I read. It just has approved for the recommendation.
Are you going to give any more time there?
The motion was to approve. Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
Absolutely not.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Abstain. CM2.
No verbal reports, Mayor.
A1.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. CS1 was pulled. There was a closed session held as to CS2, closed session, confidential attorney-client privilege, potential litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9B1, Carl Warren and Company. Request a motion to approve payment of billing.
So moved.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. A2.
Excuse me, I'm not finished,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor.
I thought there was another one. I apologize.
There was a closed session held as to CS3, closed session, confidential attorney-client privilege, potential litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9B1, Santa Monica Systems. Request a motion to approve payment of billing.
So moved.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye.
No verbal reports, Mr. Mayor, and that concludes the reports out of closed session for this evening.
Thank you very much. Madam City Clerk, CC1.
A2.
Oh,
A2.
I did say A2, and he
No verbal reports.
chastised me.
That was
Okay,
A3.
Bergman and Dacey.
Oh,
I said A2, and you said you had more. A2? We'll get it together.
Staff report recommending approval of amendment number 2 to agreement number 11-121 with Bergman and Stacy to provide legal services to the city for civil matters.
Move approval.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
Abstain.
Dunlap.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. CC1.
No reports, thank you.
Madam City Treasurer, CT1.
Just have a brief report for the council and those attending. With regards to bonds invested, there's been a total of $50,782,750 that have been invested thus far. And of that amount, approximately $24 million of those bonds are callable for year 2012. And in all likelihood, 80% of them will be called, because interest rates continue to decline, particularly with the deteriorating European economic conditions. So the bonds basically is between 1% and 1.80. Thus far, none of them have been called. But again, I expect at least 90% of them to be called this year. And also would like to point out interest rates do continue to be quite low. For the one-year bond, the rate is between 2.7 to about 3%, to about 0.3. The two-year bond is also quite low, 0.45 to 0.56, and the three-year bond, 0.54 to 0.77, and the four-year bond, 0.85 to 1%. And even the five-year bond, 1% to 1.50. And I believe even the 10-year Treasury is roughly at, I think it's at 1.5 over 1.55. And even the 30-year Treasury is under 3%. So rates are really quite pathetic. And the LAIF rate is at 0.36 daily, and the quarterly is at 0.37. And also I'd like to point out that the bills that was paid for the month of April is 10.6 million, and the accounts payable and net payroll was 2.5. Total for the month is approximately 13 million. Thus far for May, which is not over yet, has been 11.3. Net payroll 2.5 million. Total will be thus far is about 13.8 million. And also I would like to point out that the contract for fire service, I get calls about that periodically, and thus for the fire services payments that have been paid to the county of Los Angeles has been $6.6 million. And just to give you a run of what they were from, say, 2006 to 2011, 2006 it was 10.4 million, 2007 10 million, 2008 10.8 million, 2009 12.9 million, 2010 12.3 million, and 2011 9.4 million. So that has been the charges for the county services. And also with regards to banking services, I did contact B of A. We're supposed to be having a meeting regarding reducing bank service costs because they are quite expensive thus far. They've been roughly about $132,000 thus far, and we're only halfway through the year. And I think that has a lot to do with the tremendous losses that B of A have incurred with their acquisition of Merrill Lynch as well as Countrywide. They paid roughly about $30 billion, I think, for Countrywide, and they've spent more than probably 60 in all kinds of losses with regards to it, and also losses with regards to Merrill Lynch. And also would like to put on the table also that we are also considering going out for an RFP to see if we can get better banking services.
Thank you.
That concludes my remarks.
Ms. Nichols, would you come forward? I know you wanted to speak earlier. We're going to take a break after this first public comment. So
you want to make sure she doesn't leave?
I hope not.
Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, we don't have to break. So, we don't have time. We don't have time. So we have to take a break. We have to change the tape, so we take a recess for 10 minutes. 10 minutes? 5 minutes. Right. Sorry, Ms. Nichols. I tried. 5 minutes.
I want to thank you very much, Mayor, for having me.
Can we come to order, please?
I would like to thank you very much. As you know, my name is Pinky Nichols, and I'm from the Heights at Ladera. To the councilwoman, councilmen, and the staff, I would like to thank you for being able to speak to you. As you know, La Cienega is all the way from downtown, from Los Angeles. That is kind of the thoroughfare through Inglewood, and it sort of sets an impression. And as you know, the county has really done a good job on fixing it up down to Slauson, a little below Slauson. But our mayor came along and helped us. The mayor got that area, that center divider, cleaned up. It looked like a jungle. And on behalf of the Heights of Ladera, along with Bank of America and Pens and what have you, we all want to thank you, Mayor. If the mayor tells you he's going to do something, so far I found that he's done it. I want to thank you very much.
Good evening. This is my first time at the City Council meeting, and I'm here for a good reason. My name is June Chavez, and I've had an abundance of experience with senior programs over 40 years. My concern tonight is the proposed Inglewood new Senior Citizen Center. There's some indication that some $20 million are earmarked for the new center, and the money is in the bank. What plans will be developed to this information? When will the announcement become public? How soon will action begin? It's been almost 10 years. All words have been no money available. We must respond to this good news and present some timelines of events and meetings leading to the building of the new Inglewood Center. 6 structures in Inglewood and the general senior population rely on services from the existing center. Hundreds of seniors are enjoying a lunch program, activities, and socialization. But all of it is conducted in the same large room. Activities are scheduled out to other locations due to budget cuts and lack of staff. There's no kitchen. Seniors deserve better. Even with these disadvantages, seniors come. Why? They need and want what that center offers. Meeting other people, getting out of the house, enjoying a good meal, being brought to the center, being taken home from the center. This important revelation in Inglewood gives us all the opportunity to step up to the plate, push forward to build the best center in the county, cutting no corners. Seniors deserve best. Tonight, give us the pathway and guidance with the council's help to assemble the plans and the necessary information to build a beautiful facility. The seniors deserve the best. They have been a patient group who at this very moment do not believe this is about to happen. They no longer have faith in the council. Council members are always up for criticism, and few give compliments toward efforts and accomplishments. We appreciate all your involvements and look forward to the successes of your coming projects. Show this community how good it can be by making this 10-year dream come true.
Okay.
We need to create a senior citizen commission so that everything comes through that commission and it operates all the time. Seniors need to know what's going on and not the same thing, no money. If it's no money, how can we get money? But I understand that there is money. So we want to be a part of that plan. The seniors need to be a part of that plan.
Ma'am, we're beyond time. What was your name again?
June Chavez.
Ms. Chavez, in the next 2 weeks, there'll be a staff report given on our way forward for the senior center within the next 2 weeks.
Next 2 weeks?
Within the next 2 weeks.
I understand it'll be on the agenda the June 19th.
That's in the next 2 weeks.
That's the 2 weeks?
That's the 2 weeks.
Okay. Should I have the room full with senior adults?
It's not. Feel free if you choose to. But that's the way forward. But anyway, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Good.
I want the seniors that made the sacrifice to come down here with me. Would you please stand, please? Now, you know seniors don't go out at night.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Chavez.
So I brought one with me. One came on the bus. And the one that walked over here, I'm going to take her home.
Thank you, Ms. Chavez.
My name's Bertram Freeman, District 1 and 4. I just wanted to say that I enjoyed the meeting tonight, and this is as long as I've ever stayed at a meeting that you guys had. But I wanted to say, as a citizen of the city of Inglewood, I wanted to suggest to the council to consider in all their future contracts to be more austere in their offers while looking to the future, combinations of the county and as a whole. I keep getting the feeling, because of the way the economy is going, that somewhere along the way we're going to get into a deflationary period, and that's something that we all have to worry about. So I did see that we have the community workshop program here, and I would like for us to really concentrate on trying to find some method of getting more money into the city of Inglewood through manufacturing, doing a number of things that we can do for ourselves rather than hire out of city. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eunice Brown. I will be filing a claim against the city of Inglewood, specifically the LA County Fire Department and McCormick Ambulance, for continuous premeditated harassment and for putting my life in danger. They are continuously terrorizing me and hurting me when they assault me with those fire trucks and ambulances. As I have said before, I am sorry for whatever happened years ago. Please stop terrorizing me. You are keeping me and the city in an uproar and are preventing healing. Your actions are riotous and terrorizing. You are putting my life in danger. The city looks towards the LA County Fire Department to be an example, because you have so proudly set the example, shown that you will chase me and harass me. It causes other citizens to think they can harass and provoke me too. This is a retaliatory act. I am writing this letter to city officials so that you would know exactly what is happening to me, and to ask you, council members, to intervene. Please tell the Los Angeles County Fire Department and McCormick Ambulance to please stop chasing me up and down the street as I go about my daily chores, and to stop chasing me around the forum as I walk with loud sirens, flashing lights, and horns blowing. Please stop speeding by my residence with sirens screeching. The Los Angeles County Fire Department attacked me at my church by accelerating towards me when I left church and by blowing horns at me. Please stop parking by my church, taunting me while I partake in sacrament. Deborah Sutton, manager of Forum Park Apartments, informed me that the residents are unhappy with me, and this is the reason why I get all these ambulances and fire trucks passing by my apartment. I don't know how much a red fire truck weighs, but I know that it outweighs me, and it is frightening when you deliberately celebrate towards me. You have been tormenting me for some years now. Stop it. Stop it. Your continuous attention has had a profound effect on my health. On different occasions, I have spoken to Chief Luke Carrez and Chief Darnasky regarding this continuous premeditated and deliberate retaliatory act with no success. You have willingly and maliciously and without shame violated my rights, my health, and my sense of peace. You have abused your power of authority. Specific stations and vehicles involved are stationed, especially Station 173, Station 172, 171. Some of these stations may be closed, but they use the fire truck. Station 94, Rescue 14, 33, 34, 66, 833, and 857, McCormick Ambulance Services, and others. It has been 12 years. Stop this foolishness and let the city heal. I no longer trust you or your services. I am afraid of you. It is apparent that LA County Fire Department and McCormick Ambulance do not have enough work to keep them occupied. Again, please, I am asking you to intervene in this situation and make them leave me alone. You knew that I was a poor black woman and no one would care. I want to see if the LA County Fire Department and McCormick Ambulance will lie.
Ma'am, your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I get into my issue, I'd like to speak to you about some things I saw on your agenda that I could not respond to at the time. One particular issue was the corridor where they're going to be redesigning and remodeling, and the lighting system and all of that kind of stuff. I am a senior citizen now. I'll be 69 in 5 more months. When I was younger, at 27, 35, I used to go to Vegas every 2 weeks, me and my wife, because she liked to gamble. I didn't, but she never lost. If she did, it wasn't that much. Mostly she won. I'd walk the streets at night, watching the lights and the people. And if you've ever been to Vegas, their crosswalks go square, and then they have the one that does an X. So when you want to go somewhere as pedestrian traffic, if you want to go to here, you don't have to do this and do this way for two. You just go there. I said that to you now because when these people, especially on Century, because if you've ever been on Century, Century can be real fast when it wants to be. So, and you hear about people, senior citizens, now that I'm one, because I've walked off the curb myself, daydreaming or whatever, and didn't realize that I shouldn't have stepped off the curb. The light wasn't for me, whatever. In their plan, I was thinking while I was back there being a retired aerospace engineer and always trying to build a bigger and better mousetrap, maybe in their plan you might want to consider, if you talk to them, crosswalks here, like in Vegas, where you go straightest from A to B is a straight line. You know, that's the shortest distance. If you got people where they're young at an intersection, busy or slow, and you have the X as well as those that have to take the X, okay, but if I want to go to that corner, why should I do this and do this when I can go this? That being said, you make a block area in there where nothing but pedestrians walk, like they do in Vegas. No cars move, people just walk. Then they cut that off, and then the vehicles do their thing both ways. I think that would cut down a lot of people getting bumped stepping off the curbs, especially senior citizens, daytime or night. And, you know, we having health problems because most of us are really, and I'm on it, well on that way of probably having me a cane. The next thing is the lighting thing. She bought, I think it was you that mentioned the issue of the lighting. Yeah, it's dark out there. And I'm nearsighted and getting nearsighted every second. So I need all the light I can get. Now, as far as their lighting, as long as every intersection is lit, especially major ones, with these here LUDs, which light up like, it's like daylight. If you got eyes like me, it's like daylight. We need that light. I think people would come out and feel safer. Senior citizens would stay out later and enjoy the things in the neighborhood if they didn't have to beat sundown or darkness. Anyway, now me. I'm a Vietnam veteran, 66, 67. I've applied for my benefits since 95, still haven't got them, Agent Orange. You talk about income. You have a Henley Center down here, you know, a veterans place. There's $184 million that's not getting to your veterans. That's all veterans. That money could be going into this community because the VA is not doing what they're supposed to do, and the reason for that is we're never going to get it. They got it set up that way. And I have a magazine, friends, that I'm involved with. I'm going to be printing my stories. This is a June issue. In it, there's going to be a festival in Inglewood in August at park somewhere, school park. I forget the name of it. Coleman Park in August. My story is about the 5th page in a veteran. I'm not some political pundit. I'm not somebody trying to tell you what I think. This is my story of going through the system as a company clerk and living and dealing with the paperwork.
Your time, sir.
Can I have just 30 seconds?
Actually, I gave you an extra minute, sir.
Huh?
I gave you an extra minute.
Well, okay.
Well,
read your paper, people. In the paper this morning, we're going back into Vietnam, and we haven't cleaned up the first time, okay? Anyway, all these things will be in the paper.
Thank you, sir.
We haven't taken care of our own yet.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and staff. Ronald Davis, 2nd District. I'm here to comment on an article that I found in the Los Angeles Times June 2nd edition. That's right, the LA Times, not the Limbaugh letter. The headline says, Bell's accounting firm is disciplined. City mayor states $300,000 fine over failure to detect financial irregularities, a slap on the hand. I'll read the first 3 paragraphs. The state has reached a disciplinary settlement with the accounting firm that, excuse me, failed to detect financial irregularities in Bell despite money problems that pushed the city to the brink of insolvency and led to a public corruption scandal. the accounting firm of Mayer, Hoffman, McCain must pay a $300,000 fine and as much as $50,000 for the cost of the investigation, according to the settlement with the California Board of Accountancy. In addition, its license is suspended for 6 months, although that was stayed, meaning the firm can continue practicing in the state while it serves 2 years probation. That name, Mayer, Hoffman, and McCain, has popped up several times in this chamber. And there was bickering back and forth as to the integrity of this firm. Their representatives came down here on several occasions, looked the council, the mayor, all of us in the eyes and said, "Oh no, there's no problem with us. We're fine." Looked at you out there in TV land and said the same thing. What did Brother Malcolm say? Chickens coming home to roost? With my last 45 seconds, this is easy, right, Mayor and Council? We'll never be doing business with this firm again, will we? Will we? And the only reason why I believe they were just fined so little is because, sadly, this state is trying desperately to keep businesses here. If it were another time, different situations, I think they would have been financially annihilated. Because what they did, what they were part of, was real hard to do. Real hard, what happened in Bell. They had to be more duplicit than what's being led on. The mayor of Bell says as much. That's why he said it was a slap on the hand. So I'm hoping that somebody will make an announcement tonight. The mayor, hey, say it. We're not going to do business with these people again. They're thieves. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Joseph Texera. The Council knows I've come here for 9 months trying to convince you to improve our police department's policies and procedures to give Inglewood residents better protection and service. When I filed a fraud complaint with IPD, 2 detectives took about 3 months each to return my multiple phone calls. And when my neighbor's son was the victim of a drive-by, IPD didn't want to come out, saying shooting a gun out of a car was only technically a crime. They asked me to collect bullet shells for them in a fresh crime scene and tried to scare me out of filing a report. These are obviously serious problems, but with the apparent approval of this council, this mayor, who has admitted to a prejudice against citizens' complaints about police, has repeatedly hidden these and other serious problems in IPD by making blatantly false and misleading statements and repeatedly helping IPD officials do the same. This mayor has helped IPD in the city repeatedly violate state law, hiding from the public IPD tapes, phone recordings that prove my complaints. But I've always been willing to put all that aside if the mayor and the council showed that they were serious about improving our police department. I didn't need an apology or anyone to tell me that I was right about my complaints. I needed a plan from this council on how to make the city I've lived in for 50 years safer. So when the mayor cut me off during my time to speak at the last meeting, claiming he was making an apology to me, I listened for 3 minutes, hoping for something worth listening to. But I heard no plan to improve anything. And I got fairly insulted because most of what the mayor said after the word apology turned out to be more deceptive excuses for why IPD and the city have violated state law, misled the public, and hidden IPD and city misconduct. I even postponed my comments that night so I could watch the meeting DVD, and evaluate what the mayor said fairly. And I can now say for a fact that the mayor spent over 300% more time making deceptive excuses for his and his cohort's unprofessional and or illegal misconduct than he did apologizing to me. The mayor took absolutely no responsibility for anything. That's not leadership. Blaming others and disrespecting Inglewood's residents by claiming that he and Chief Seabrooks didn't even know about the IPD phone tapes that proved my complaints until recently. Even though on September 20th of last year, the mayor told the public that Seabrooks knew about the tapes. On December 6th, Seabrooks told the public she had listened to the tapes. And 6 weeks ago, Captain Sissick admitted that he played the tapes for me in September and that they still existed. And I specifically told this council about those tapes, what's on those tapes, that Captain Sissick played those tapes for me at about 12 council meetings in the last 8 months. So the mayor, Chief Seabrooks, and the captain knew that, well, those incriminating tapes had existed since last September. But the mayor waited until the very last meeting before Seabrooks quit to admit that they existed. If anything, Mayor, you needed to make an apology to Inglewood, every resident in Inglewood, for blatantly disregarding our trust in you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'd like to comment a little bit about rebuilding Century. Concrete is nowadays come way down in price, and it's a lot less labor intensive when you do blacktop and concrete. You have to frame them differently. And with concrete, you could do it all in one time, saving a lot of labor. But what you're going to find out in the long run is that concrete, when oil goes onto it, you get huge black spots. So where blacktop is blacktop and black spots are not shown, when you do it in concrete, you see them. And the white lines in the road disappear on concrete. So what I'm doing, I'm paving the auto mall in concrete also, but I'm putting dye in the concrete for the places what normally would be blacktop, and that dye will make the concrete dark and will hide the the years of oil staining and that type of stuff. You still get the 40 years out of it. It costs maybe, and the concrete cost, you can get the yard now for like $55. The Florence concrete place just reopened right here in Inglewood, and I'm pretty sure we get great prices. But seeing how concrete wears, if you start now thinking about 10, 15 years down the road how it's going to look, also you could do all different types of colors. You don't have to, you can have intersections be like a reddish color. Once you're doing things in concrete, those dyes allow you to do a lot, plus stamping. So that's what I have to say about that. And I noticed the congratulations to Republic. You guys really cut a good deal, and you keep twisting and getting the deal better. But there's maybe a little hidden value. You have 26, 28 trucks going around. Those are moving bulletin boards. You could sell the space on the sides of them. Like, I'd love to advertise my automobile specials, because not only do they run around Inglewood, then they go somewhere else with the garbage and they run around some more. So just like if you're making tons of money on the 405 with the building signs, you may be able to harvest some synergy there. There's many different ways that we could use one asset to help promote another. That's it. Thanks. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Coper. Close public comment. Closing comments, Councilman Stevens.
Well, I just would like to say to everyone that our senior citizens are really, the way the stock market is going, the way the world economy is going, are really taking a beating. But I'd like to let you know that Senator Tom Harkin has a bill that is before the Senate, and it's identified as it is a proposed increase in Social Security, and it's called the Rebuild America Act. And I would just like to let you know that there is possibly hope on the horizon for the seniors, for the senior citizens. Also, and addressing the issue of the Relay for Life that took place over the weekend, Councilman Franklin, hats off to you. Councilman Franklin, ladies and gentlemen, he pitched camp out there totally for the entire weekend, and hats off to you, sir. I would have loved to have been out there with you, but unfortunately on Saturday, my daughter, was her final soccer game, all three of them, and I'm the coach of the youngest one, so I had an early rise. But nevertheless, I came by, and I want to also commend my second mom out there, Velma Slaughter, and Papa San sitting at home. You were basically a team leader all by yourself and did quite well. You raised over $1,000. But I would like to say this. I would like to say to the travelers, hats off to you also. But I'd like to say this. I've had a few people who have had cancer, and they have no transportation services. The American Cancer Society does not provide transportation services for them to get to their treatments over in West Los Angeles. So I'd like to say to all of you, when you donate your money to the American Cancer Society, might want to put a little bug in their ear that, you need to provide transportation to those Inglewood residents here who do not have transportation services because Dial-A-Ride will not assist them to go to these treatments. Finally, I'd like to address the issue in reference to a young man that I met. He was attending college. He wanted to attend college. He did everything he's supposed to do. He maintained a B plus average here in the city, and unfortunately there is no room for him in the university. And this is something that I want to bring attention to my colleagues also, is that when I was elected, I advocated for a training school, and I still am. And I hope that we can all come together and work with the school district, because we have to, everyone cannot go to college, and especially now everyone's literally on a waiting list. But what we need to do is establish a trade school, a legitimate trade school similar to what they have in East Los Angeles, where they have utility linesmen. Utility linesmen earn over $100,000 a year. They have solar panel installer classes, a number of different legitimate trade school classes. I just want to put that out there. And then finally, Mr. Mayor, as you know, Frank Holloman passed away. He was the first, from what I've been told, he was the first black assemblyman in the state of California. And he owned the Boulevard Cafe as well as Frank's Place. Maybe you remember these locations. And he passed away. And so, Mr. Mayor, I know you're going to adjourn the meeting in his honor, but I tell you, he was quite an individual. He was Just Rouse's assistant, and as I said, he was quite an individual, accomplished a lot. So with that, I'm going to conclude, and I hope all of you drive safely home, and have a blessed evening.
Councilman Dunlap.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Actually, this past week, I actually was visiting my grandchildren, which I'm exhausted, taking care of them and so forth, but I had lots of fun. But I wanted to speak to everybody about something that I saw when I was visiting them. They've moved to Texas. They have a SeaWorld in San Antonio. They have a whole big section they've opened up called Aquatica. I saw some wonderful water theme park. I mean, it's almost as big as SeaWorld. You have to go into SeaWorld, and then you have to pay extra to go to Aquatica. But so many young children, I'm talking 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds, they have these huge water pools, huge, I mean, acres and acres and acres with slides and so forth. And I'm watching this, and I'm thinking, we need to have something, just maybe one at Vincent Park, where we have actually a pool of water enclosed with a fence for safety, but with some slides and things, very, fairly shallow water, like no deeper than, say, 36 inches. With some slides. There's just so many things we need to provide for our kids, and I think this is something that I'd like us to start. I want to plant the seed, let's put it that way, because I'm looking at all these kids and parents, and I say, you know what, that's kind of missing. Yes, we have our pools, and they're very heavily used, but we need to add to that. And our own little water park at Vincent Park would be fabulous with the slides that go into the water. Definitely, I think people know that I have a vision for a splash pad at North Park. A splash pad is very different. It's just water that squirts up, and they're not actually in the water. It's a solid surface. But I'm looking forward to that coming to fruition. But something that we can have at Vincent Park for families, specifically young kids, would be fabulous. So I'm hoping my colleagues will keep that in the back of their mind, and some money comes available, we can do that for our community and for our families. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Morales.
I'd just like to take the time to thank staff for putting together, once again, a good Memorial Day service, which took place Monday of Memorial Day a week ago. And just completely always surprised of the number of veterans that actually show up, and really enjoy the service. Mr. Bill Murphy, who comes out and organizes a great portion of the event along with staff. So wanted to thank them for that, and obviously wanted to congratulate, both Councilman Franklin and everybody else who participated in the Relay for Life. It's a great event. Wasn't able to attend this year, but it's always one of those events which is community related, and it's just great to see. And actually, Ms. Dunlap brought up a good point in regards to those water parks, because I got to tell you, even the small wade pools at some of these parks that are like 2 feet deep or 1 foot deep get a lot of use during the summer months. So anything that we can add to that would be great. Other than that, thanks for coming out.
Councilman Franklin.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to give kudos to the mayor and Councilman Morales for attending the 64th annual Memorial Day service that was held at the south side of City Hall this past Monday, May 28th. It was one of the better attendance that we've had. And also, I want to give a shout out to Teresa Estrada. It was the first time that the scout unit that I am with, Troop 636, in the city of Inglewood, that also participated along with another unit. And so it was very moving. A number of the parents in the unit was surprised of the number of veterans that are still around, particularly those that are in fact from different branches of service. And then following that, the Troop 636 went to the VFW Post 2122 and did their volunteer work and did the serving of the meals to the veterans and those special guests. So I want to thank actually VFW Post 2122 and the City of Inglewood for coordinating that effort. The other part I want to address has to do with the American Cancer Society partnering with the City of Inglewood of doing the Relay for Life event that just recently happened this past weekend, where some of us, and I want to stress some of us, decided that cancer didn't sleep, and neither did we, that we stayed up during the event from 9 a.m. Saturday morning to 9 a.m. Sunday morning and then some, to identify that we were there to make a statement, and that I happen to be a captain for one of the teams of the District 4 Relay for Life. And I just want to thank the 70-plus volunteers that physically walked with me and others on the track from my team for the entire 24-hour period. My dogs are talking right now, but more importantly, it was for the worthy cause. And also that District 4 has been able to raise a nice substantial amount on behalf of the American Cancer Society. It's still not over with. Funding can still be collected. Checks will be made payable to the American Cancer Society. You can go on the internet for relayforlife.org for the City of Inglewood and make a credit card contribution, or you can send a check to the American Cancer Society on behalf of a particular team. And then I would be remiss if I didn't recognize District 4 Representative Outstanding Velma Slaughter for her outstanding effort for her first time of setting up the campsite and did the Relay for Life, and got special recognition for her concentration on a specific cancer that exists, and she was recognized by all that was present Sunday morning. So again, it was a great experience. Mayor, thanks for joining us for the grand opening. I happen to be a cancer survivor. We did do the first lap, and then we did the Laminarian, where we reminisced about those that have passed on, fighting the good fight. And that event in itself, it filled the entire track, and Mayor was part of that activity as well. So thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. I also want to acknowledge the Relay for Life. It is something that we could do better. So we had our best one actually this year. We changed the site from Vincent Park on the soccer field, football field, to Crozier. It was much more secure, well lit, and better attended. And it's my hope that next year I will be able to spend more time to bring my own team. And I commend Councilman Franklin for bringing a team and staying the whole 24 hours. We've made a lot of progress. Madison Square Garden still intends to purchase the Forum. Now we're moving forward on Century Boulevard. In 2 weeks, we'll hear where we are moving forward on the Senior Center, and we've stabilized our finances. We still have challenges in the future, as the financial planners indicated, to have a proper reserve. They want us to save, I think it's between 6 and 8% of our general fund and put it in reserve. It's not realistic to believe that we can do that in the near term. We're still trying to recover. But what I see and what I'm grateful for the efforts of the whole council, is that we're moving forward on the big ticket things that we promised that we would. Brief note about Mr. Teixeira. I don't know that he has everything quite accurate. I have asked the city attorney to initiate an investigation as to what happened with the public records request, and I had been informed that we had no records responsive. When I found out that we had, reopen an investigation. So that will be what it's going to be. And I do want to close, and also the new waste hauler, one of the biggest contracts the city ever lets. So we made a lot of progress this last 14 months. I want to close the meeting in the name of Assemblyman Frank Holloman. He died last Tuesday, May 23rd in Los Angeles. He moved to Los Angeles in the 50s, and as the councilman said, he was a staffer for Speaker Jesse Umrah before being elected to the Assembly himself in 1972. He served a single term before running for the state Senate in 1974. He lost in the 1974 primary to Nate Holden, who went on to win the general election. And so we're adjourned.